Welcome back to NUIC Football, joined by Logan Swan. I'm your host, Kyle Kampmier. As usual, later in the show, we'll have Joe Merdian and Jay Doyle join us to talk about the 8-man recap. But right now, we're going to recap round 1 and 11-man. We're going to look ahead to some of the matchups for round 2 and as well take a look across the state at some of those games that will be coming up in round 2 that are going to lead us to our quarterfinal matchups. Logan, what game stood out the most to you last week? Let's start with the biggest one that probably is getting the most conversation around the state.
Porta and Fairfield.
Yeah.
That's a brutal ending for both teams, really. Obviously, you feel for Fairfield just because of they got. I'm not saying they got cheated, but that's just how it is. They should have won. They didn't. You gotta feel for Porta because at this point, you're playing a second round game, but it doesn't really feel like you earned it because you got an extra down. I really fear for Fairfield just because they don't get a home playoff game now. Obviously, Williamsville would be heavily favored against both teams, so I don't think that outcome changes anything. But to me, there's just nothing better than a home playoff game. So, sucks for that.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard way to go. I don't think anybody wants to lose that way, and I don't think anybody really wants to win that way either. But at the same time, when you take a look at how some of these things play out, you can't help what's happened. I think what a lot of people want is they want IHSA to step in and basically give a opinion on what should happen or create a verdict, really, is what I'm looking for, is what they want to see. I don't think that's the IHSA's mission. But they would like to see that if you're going to do a protest, they want the IHSA to make a decision if there's a protest brought up. And in this instance, I can understand it, but how many times in years past, and I'm going to use Texas, for instance, with the UIL, they've had a lot of protests come to their doorstep, of which then they make the final verdict of what happens and transpires. And a lot of times that's like right now they're doing it in real time as much as possible before the next round's games are available. And I don't think that's what the IHSA wants to do, to be honest, because while a lot of people are referring to IHSA as this governing facility, they're not. Yes, they're a group of people that take control and help administer the rules that are in place, but with a broad brush, so to speak. The schools themselves are what join that membership. IHSA is basically the arbiter, right? They're just using the language that's there, and that's where the confrontation then comes up too, is if they're arbitrary in this instance, why can't they be in this instance as well? And it's one of those unfortunate situations, but I think it's going to take a school to bring that up for a topic of conversation or a proposal. But the proposal season for right now is already underway, so you're not going to be able to get anything in unless they do an emergency session like they did after last year's state championship debacle, where we saw 7 private schools win ridiculously by a long amount. And that's one of the cool things I see on the proposal docket right now is the opportunity to change how the multiplier works. Because let's be honest, the multiplier was put into effect in 2005. I saw in somebody's article it was back to an old 2-class system. In other sports, yes, because we didn't go to 4 classes in other sports until I think 2008. But for football, we are already in an 8-class system. So with that in regard, I just don't think I don't know. The 1.65 multiplier is being talked about as being outdated. Not saying that it's outdated. There's two different proposals going on. One is to up that to 2.5 because of the growing amount of populations in the suburban areas, especially in the Chicagoland area. You're starting to see a lot more suburbs blow up in size as they move further west and south. But with that, the tiered one that I looked at, while it was nice in consideration, part of it, I mean, it was based off of a 200,000 population, a 999,000 population, and then a million plus. Well, there's only one city in the entire state that has a million plus. That's Chicago, and there's no city in the entire state that has over 200,000 people in it outside of Chicago. So my assumptions is that it's trying to take your 30-mile radius and what that total population is and then tier it based off of that. But that was like 1.5, 1.75, and 2.0.
That was the one that I looked at.
Would it have some stuff validating it? Possibly. But I don't know. It's not something I like. The 2.5 I would like. And don't get me wrong, I do like the tiered system too. I think if you tiered it to a little bit of a different population size, then it might become more effective. I don't know how effective it would be in the current proposed state that they put it in. But time will tell. I mean, I think a lot of it's to really hit the Chicagoland area based off of the population sizes that they put in there, which I can't normally disagree. But then let's take a look at, for instance, an Althoff Catholic and what they did. They wouldn't even hit the 999,000 mark for a polling population because I don't think people realize that St. Louis's population is right around 300,000. So you're not even close to that million population that they think. And therefore, like an Althoff Catholic, they would have an easier multiplier than what is currently in place. And that's where I think they need to relook at some of this stuff. Because let's be honest, when you're pulling kids out of the Metro East area, as they did last year and the year before that, you have a great population to really grab a lot of talented athletes from, and they proved that. And I don't want to take nothing away from the athletes themselves because let's be honest, they were a ton of fun to watch play. And they were great athletes. But to make the situation fair with integrity around the sport and what has to happen there, I think that you need to increase or decrease that population size in that tiered event to actually get what you're trying to achieve. And with that, both of them are proposed with the current waiver rule in place, which is that one playoff win over 3 seasons or a regional champion or sectional semifinal win is what it was in the other sports. So we'll see how it plays out, but regardless, that it's tough for Fairfield, obviously, and both school districts put out great messages. And I think in times like this, when you face adverse moments, it's when you need to have leaders step up, as both Fairfield and Porta high schools did. I've also read somewhere where, people are asking Porta to forfeit. Well, they can't go back and forfeit now because the IHSA has already concluded that game at that time. So even if they were to forfeit, a forfeit won't happen. IHSA won't honor it anyway. So Porta has to move on. So then the next request is, well, why don't you have them forfeit against Williamsville? Well, let's be honest. Are they going to beat Williamsville?
Probably not.
They lost 45-7 in the regular season. And that's not trying to throw shade anywhere. That's just reality and facts. And to be quite honest, either of the teams that would have won, I don't see beating Williamsville in the second round. I understand the feelings around it, though, because at the end of the day, a playoff win is a playoff win. And you have to at least give yourself that opportunity to move on to the next round and then play at that opportunity. With that, Porta is going to have that opportunity. While they know that there was an error that was created, there's no way that they can themselves go back and fix it either. So you have to move on. You have to play. It's an unfortunate way for Coach Justin Townsend and the Mules to go about it, but at the same time, unfortunately, it is what it is. And it's not the first time we've seen controversy, and perhaps there will be some discussion at the legislative level to decide what they want to do as far as the future goes in those types of situations. I saw a screenshot from the Bismarck Henning and Farmington game from 2 years ago where there was a catch in the back of the end zone. And clearly you can see in the picture that the receiver had possession of the football and the foot was down in bounds, and the referee called no catch. And they said that he was juggling the ball. Those are situations where it's a fast situation that you got to make a call. And again, you're not going to be able to overturn that call because there is no play-by-play rules allowed in high school or play reviews allowed in high school football. And then people are starting to talk about, you have the capabilities with today's standards. Well, not every game has people that can video the game from every angle either. I mean, I don't think people understand that while the capabilities and everything is there, the fact remains that a lot of the videos that people are showing are from their own personal videos, or they're showing them from news cameras. Well, you can't use news cameras for your replay editorials. It has to come from an official stance, and there isn't one. And to ask for that to happen is going to create a lot more cost associated for schools in order to make that happen. And that's not the right direction to go either, because we all know a lot of these schools are having a tough time keeping a budget the way it is. They're asking for additional funds to help with their budget, or they're asking the state for additional fundings to help them manage the budget. And we all know what great state this is for budget control, but that's a whole nother topic that we won't get in here. But regardless of that, that's a tough one. What else stands out?
St. Joe Ogden, obviously that was a little surprising. I think most people had Benton. I thought it was a possibility, but I think I picked Benton if I recall. But
I did.
I think I picked Benton if I recall. But I said I thought it would be close, and St. Joe's pulled it out. Looking at 2A, obviously Flora getting their first playoff win. That's huge. That's just absolutely massive for that program and them. So congratulations to them. They got another uphill battle this week. Probably not going to be able to continue the magic, but you never know. Everything else seemingly went to plan in 2A, like we kind of thought it would. And then in 1A, the North went about as expected. I think I picked Rushville, but I knew it was a coin flip game between them and Dwight, so I'm not too heartbroken.
I had Dwight picked.
I'm not too heartbroken over that one. Obviously the big one, Nokomis finding a way over Tuscola. That one did catch my eye.
Yeah, Greg Armstrong from View from the West on our playoff show here the week before had picked Tuscola to make it all the way to state, and it was definitely a tough way for the Warriors to go out. I think that they were playing at a high level, but Nokomis, and when you take a look at their body of work too, you could definitely tell this was going to be a close game, and Nokomis took advantage of every facet that they could and came away with a pretty good win there.
Yep, absolutely. Shout out to the Seuss. He knew.
Hey, it's all right. That's the whole point of picking
That's right.
games. You go through. I mean, I love the Seuss, but how often is he wrong in small school football picks? But it's good. It's fun. It's great for Nokomis. It's tough for It's tough for any team when you lose in the playoffs, especially when
Yep.
you think that you have the capabilities of making an opportunity into a run. And I think for some of those teams that get their butts whooped in the first round, they either kind of expect it or they know that the team that they played was just straight up better than them. It's when you lose the close ones are the games that you know that you had opportunities in. Those are the ones that haunt you the most. And I know that from my own personal experience from a couple years ago in a sectional championship game. So you never let them down. They never leave your head, and all you can do is continue to build from where you went wrong and hope that the next class coming in can help you continue to build and lift your program up.
Yep. Definitely.
All right, let's take a look at our scores from last week around the NUIC. Let me get that pulled up here, and we'll take a look at that. In the first round, Stockton beats Galena for the second time this season, 26-0. That was a game where Stockton led 8-0 at halftime. Galena had an opportunity to tie it up, but a pass became intercepted by Carter Blair. That led to 3 more scores put up by Stockton later in the second half to run away with that one, 26-0. Lena Winslow beat Forreston 48-22. That was a game that was 28-8 at halftime. Within the first 5 minutes of the second half, Lena Winslow scored 3 times to make it 48-8, put the running clock in play there. So Lena Winslow advances. In Class 3A, Dupek beat Johnsburg 18-13. A big pass play from Lucas Rousseau to Brady Moore created the touchdown that would put Dupek back into the lead for the third time in the game and seal the victory. So Dupek had a 6-0 lead, a 12-7 lead, and then the 18-13 lead. So a great back and forth contest there. That was a game that we figured would be a tough game for both teams. Dupek was favored by 7. They come away with a 5-point win. And then our Class 2A game of the week was EPC at Farmington. And boy, did that one live up to the billing. Farmington struck first. A big pass play from freshman QB Carson Noy to Boston Smith was a deflected pass by Brody Simons. But as the ball deflected off of Simons, it fell right into the hands of Smith for the catch, which was a big conversion at the time, later leading to the touchdown by Jack Gronwald to put Farmington up 7-0. EPC would respond in the second half with a fumble recovery for a touchdown by Will Burchin. Draven Zier would rush the middle of the zone to get the 2-point conversion to give EPC an 8-7 lead. Farmington then had another drive where they were getting negative yardage. Noy escaped. Or not, no. Gronwald got free down the right sideline. And that was like a 44-yard run before he got pushed out, which changed field possession for them quickly, which then led to the field goal opportunity by Joey Gibbs. He knocks it through to give Farmington a 10-8 lead. EPC gets all the way back down the field, gets to the 6-yard line, stalls out, has to kick a field goal. The kick was on center, got blocked, and one more kneel down by Noy ended the game. Epic finish, 10-8. I can't remember the last time I've seen a game end by a game-winning field goal while also being ended by a blocked field goal attempt for the game-winning try at the Class 2A level.
Yeah, definitely. It lived up to the billing. We knew it would be a good game. It was only it was a 31-30 projection, and it was 10-8 final score. So it lived up to the billing. Maybe a little more defense than was anticipated, but I think those are what make the best football games personally.
It sure does. Tough loss for EPC, but great win by Farmington as the Farmers move on to the second round where they will place Aurora Christian next week. And, you know, do have to give a shout out to Caleb Plattenberger. He is the defensive coordinator for Farmington, and he is a former West Carroll Thunder grad as well. So NUIC ties leading the defense for the Farmers. So great things there. And of course, I was able to catch up with Coach Toby Vallis after the game, had a little conversation there. So always great to chat with him as we typically message back and forth. So that was actually the first time we ever got to meet each other face to face. So that was a lot of fun as well.
Lived up to the billing, that's for sure.
All right, let's take a look at our first game when we return right after this.
Hey there, local high school football fans. This is Sean Considine, a Byron Tiger and Iowa Hawkeye alumni and now an LPL financial advisor. I'm passionate about high school football because it's the purest form of the game where communities come together, lifelong character is built, and the love for football runs deeper than the scoreboard. You can find me in my Byron office most days until I run off to football practice. I'm happy to talk about football or the markets. I'll leave that up to you. I want to wish everyone across Illinois a safe, successful, and memorable high school football season. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Are you looking to raise funds for your program? Look no further than Leading Edge Fundraising, helping teams and programs raise more with less hassle. Whether you're gearing up for a new season or trying to hit a financial goal, Leading Edge has the tools, products, and experience to get you there. From youth clubs to varsity programs, they've helped teams across Illinois maximize profits and minimize stress. Want fundraising that actually works? Go with the local experts who know how to win off the field too. Contact Brandon at 563-514-1647. Leading Edge Fundraising, raising the standard. Reach out today and take your program to the next level. All right, Logan, that first game is going to take us back to Rick Aaron Field, where the Lena Winslow Panthers come in with the 3 seed, sitting at 9-1. They are going to play host to the 6 seed GCMS Falcons, who are 8-2. GCMS beat Marquette 28-6 to earn their right here. That was another game I had wrong. I had Marquette picked to win that one, but GCMS proved me wrong. It's not the first time they've done that to me over the last 10 years. So congratulations to GCMS on booking their way into this game. Lena Winslow beat Forson 48-22. Logan, this is a rematch of last year's quarterfinal game where Lena Winslow won this one 40-7. Give us your thoughts on this game before we start to break it down further.
For GCMS, obviously, both teams returned quite a bit from last year's team, so it's pretty much the same cores. There might be a couple key guys from last year's team missing, but virtually it's the same core for both teams. So I think you're going to see a similar game, similar in style, similar output, and for the game, I just think it's going to play roughly the same way. Gibson City hasn't exactly had the best success against the NUIC in at least recent memory. Back when they were really good a couple years, I think it was 10-ish years ago, they gave some good runs. I don't know how many NUIC teams they played then, but I knew they were pretty good during those back-to-back state title runs. So I don't know. I think you're going to see a pretty similar Lena Winslow win compared just like last year.
Yeah, I would agree. It's going to be very tough. GCMS had to go through the NUIC 3 times in their state championship run in 2017 and 2018. 2017, they beat EPC first round. They beat West Carroll second round. And then in 2018, they had a great game against EPC in the semifinals where they pulled that one out 14-7. So, and that was in current coach Jared McNutt's first year leading the Wildcats. So, yeah, it's been they've had some success at the 2A level. The 1A level in recent years, they have not had a lot of success. I know in non-conference games, they've lost to Forston in 2 different meetings. Obviously, they've lost to Lena Winslow in the playoffs as well. So we'll see what happens. But Jacob Chase is the running back. He's the guy to watch for GCMS from what I'm being told. So, one of the great things about GCMS is they can do a lot of different things. They can go into shotgun. They can go from under center. They can do an I formation. They can split out into a pro style formation. So they're definitely multifaceted in what they can do, which always makes teams dangerous when you have that opportunity. Where it's going to come down to is the cliche of who's going to win the line of scrimmage, who's going to win that battle up front. And I think that Lena Winslow is definitely the more prepared team up front. But, I think GCMS would potentially be able to create some chaos there and make Lena Winslow earn it at the same time. Obviously, the Panthers are led by Aiden Wild and Alex Schlichting. Wild is just 163 yards away from reaching 3,000 yards for his career. And Schlichting just passed that milestone a week ago. So, we'll just give him a round of applause. And, it'll be great to see if Wild can do it in this game. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunity there for him. Last week, he ran 14 times for 124 yards and 4 touchdowns. Schlichting ran for 11 times for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. Defensively, Lena Winslow definitely gets after it. They're very good at shutting down the run game. It's the pass defense where they've been having a little bit of struggle this season. Miles Mann's been a difference maker at linebacker for the Panthers. Last week, he racked up 11 tackles as well. Just was named first team all conference at linebacker unanimously. So, great opportunities there. Obviously, Wild was named the conference MVP on the offensive side of the ball as well. So, Lena Winslow definitely can bring the pain in a lot of different ways for teams, and that's obviously been known as they've reached the state championship game 5 times in a row now and looking for that 6th trip to state as we go through these playoffs.
Yep. I think it'll be interesting. I wonder if GCMS can try to exploit the pass defense of Lena Winslow, which has been subpar to their standards. So that might be a mismatch they can find, but they're going to have to establish the run to some degree to give themselves a chance.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Lena Winslow obviously comes in as a heavy favorite. They're a 27-point favorite. And right now, our favorite site, HS Ratings, has them calculated as a winner by projection of 42-14. If you take a look at what Lena Winslow has done comparatively to what GCMS has done so far on the season, I can't see where that score is going to be too far off from that projection, but anything's possible in the playoffs. That's why you play the game. You don't play it on paper.
Yep, that's for sure. Anything can happen this time of year.
Absolutely. We've seen it happen thousands of times. So it'll be interesting, but I'm taking Lena Winslow here.
I'm taking Lena.
All right, we'll return right after this. Life comes with a lot of big decisions, from protecting your home and family to planning for the future. That's where Tyler Hoffman with Country Financial comes in. As a local agent, Tyler knows our community and is committed to helping you build a plan that's right for you. Give Tyler Hoffman a call today at 815-248-2188 or stop by his office in Durand. Tyler Hoffman with Country Financial, protecting what matters most. Need a logo, website, or standout graphic design? Check out Nick at Volkert Design. your go-to for high-impact branding and design solutions. With over 20 years of experience serving businesses across Northern Illinois and Chicagoland, Nick delivers best-in-class websites, logos, and graphics that get noticed. Whether you're a startup or an established name, Volkert Design brings your vision to life. Visit volkert.design today to see the difference top-tier design makes. Our next matchup is going to take us to Hayworth, where the Hornets pulled off an upset win over Princeville on the road last week, 21-14. That was a game I did pick, by the way. Hayworth moves into the second round, where they are going to play host to the number 1 ranked and number 1 seeded Stockton Blackhawks, who come in perfect at 10-0 after they beat conference rival Galena 26-0 for the second time this season. Hayworth is in the playoffs for just the second time in the last 10 years. Parker Bell's their dual threat QB. He really drives this team, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do to help out this team. Coach Godfrey is also in his second season leading Hayworth. Very well coached team here. Obviously, there's a lot of great things taking place for Hayworth, but it's going to be interesting to see how they can handle the number 1 ranked Blackhawks.
Yeah, it's a matchup wise, it's just not a great matchup for Hayworth when it comes to styles and how both teams like to play. I think Hayworth athletically is a very good team athletically. There's no question about it. A lot of these kids are juniors and seniors that were on that team that made the playoffs 2 years ago. And we played them in the first round, and they were young, but I just watching them, you could tell they were athletic because that's when we went up there. So, and Parker Bell was the quarterback that year, and I remember him, and I thought he was for as young as he was, I thought he was a great quarterback. I just thought they were young. They're all older now. They've been through, two playoff games that are going on their third playoff game now. Second year in Coach Godfrey's system. I like Stockton in this game, but I think the Hornets, for a drive or two early with home momentum on their side, can maybe do some nice things. But I think in the end, Stockton's going to overtake them.
Yeah, you talk about that group of young players. So Parker Bell, obviously a senior now. That also includes running back, linebacker Braden Brucker, offensive line, defensive lineman Weston Mayfield, lineman and linebacker Cal Andrews, defensive back Carter Brooks, defensive back Tyler Brown, offensive lineman Colton Shepard, and wide receiver Lucas Rutledge. And then you add into the mix juniors Jared Fulcher on the offensive and defensive lines, and then running back and defensive back Braden Lash, both starting both ways for this Hayworth team. A couple interesting things that I've been given about this team is they did get hurt a little bit back in week 4. So freshman running back Nate Godfrey, which is Coach Godfrey's son, had to step in against Tremont, ran for over 100 yards in that game. He's also been a fixture at linebacker since about mid-season, so he's going to get reps at both wide receiver and then playing linebacker. One of the cool things is volunteer assistant coach is Brent Spack. He coaches the linebackers and running backs. He is the son of Illinois State head coach Brock Spack. And then a team we just got talking about in Gibson City, Melvin Sibley, their former 2-time quarterback state champion Nathan Gerard is on this team as well as the QB coach. So it'll be interesting. Lash is the one who had that game-winning touchdown against Princeville. And if you see our friend Zachary Shimon, he had some of that film available from his point of view in the stands at that game as he was in attendance there before he headed down to Monmouth for the Monmouth-Roseville game with Mantino later that night. So very interesting stuff here for sure. They did lose to Ridgeview Lexington back in week 2, who Ridgeview Lexington just got blasted by Sterling Newman in the first round of the playoffs. They also lost to Leroy by 2 points, who we watched Leroy lose to Forreston, and Stockton just got done railing Forest and 44-6 here in week 9. So clearly Stockton's going to come in as a huge favorite here, currently 36-point favorite. And speaking of Stockton, you take a look at who leads them. Obviously, Jack Menson-Dyke, Mark Detweiler, and Carter Blair all at running back. Menson-Dyke's been more of the workhorse this year, 17 attempts, 139 yards and a touchdown last week. Detweiler picked up 2 touchdowns on 14 attempts for 84 yards. And Carter Blair had 9 attempts for 130 yards, along with that big interception that turned Galena away when they were in scoring position. Morgan Hass had 2 receptions for 13 yards and a touchdown. He's been a great addition to take some of the focus away from Eli Larson as well, which has definitely benefited the gameplay of Noah Larson, who is the fastest kid on the team at quarterback. And, we've talked about it a couple times where he hasn't been in the rushing stats a lot because of the system that they run, but he has the capabilities that if he gets flushed out of the pocket, now he is a running threat and can create a lot of chaos. But additionally, he's throwing at like a 60% clip on the year, passing the ball has been very effective, especially in his touchdown to interception ratio. And, he's been able to get 2 big targets there in Hass and Larson to be able to help out. And then his brother, Aiden Larson, moved from tight end to center this year. So that's helped out with familiarity there as well. On top of that, Aiden Larson has done a great job at linebacker as well for the Blackhawks. And then Maya Luke, who was traditionally a linebacker, moved to that defensive nose guard position, and he's been wreaking havoc all season. He picked up 8 tackles for the Blackhawks last week, with Detweiler at linebacker with 6 tackles and Eli Larson at 5 tackles at the other backer position. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a tough one for Hayworth. Anytime you got the number 1 ranked team in the state coming to town and you haven't been in the state rankings all year, it's going to be a tough situation, but an opportunity at the same time that you probably want to take on just to at least A, see where you're at, and B, hope you come up with an upset. And we've seen that happen before over the years too.
Yep, for sure. I like Stockton this game. I think the projection is 38-3 Stockton. So I think you'll see some pretty similar line. I'm sure Hayworth would like to get a touchdown. But yeah, I like Stockton. I just think just matchup and style wise, it's just not a great matchup for Hayworth.
I agree. I'm taking the Blackhawks as well. So we'll be right back after this. Are you looking to buy or sell a home in the NUIC area? Trust local expertise. Jess Schumacher with Remax Town, Lake, and Country knows the market and understands the community. Whether you're upgrading, downsizing, or buying your first home, Jess is here to make the process simple and stress-free. Put his experience to work for you today. Call Jess Schumacher with Remax Town, Lake, and Country at 608-347-3659. Your hometown realtor, helping you find home where your story begins. Our Jess Schumacher Remax Town, Lake, and Country Game of the Week takes us back to Pecatonica, where the number 10 seed Dupac Rivermen are going to play host to 2 seed Byron. Byron beat Oregon last week 63-15, while Dupac beat Johnsburg 18-13. These 2 teams met back in week 6. Byron won that contest 42-14, and that was a game in which Dupac had the lead 14-12 in the first half, but the second half they could not sustain and hold off Caden Considine and company as they put up 30 unanswered points to run away with that game. Considine rushed for 200 yards in that last meeting. Last week against Oregon, he picked up 182 yards on the ground with 3 touchdowns in that first round win. Additionally, the Tigers also are getting ground contributions out of Dawson Criddle, and Cole Aiken returned to the lineup as well. The junior definitely getting some big carries in that game against Oregon too, as that could become another storyline as we move throughout these playoffs. Obviously, North Carolina baseball commit Andrew Talbert's running the offense at the quarterback position. He can both throw and run, although they have not thrown the ball very much. They are definitely more of a run-first team. heavily run first. But they do have receivers in Weston Auker, Landon Bonville, and JJ Edmondson that can also give the teams opportunities. JJ Edmondson was actually just on an official visit to Illinois here this past weekend as well. So basically you got a couple D1 guys on this team for Byron. Obviously, Talbert's going for baseball, but there's a lot of people that are talking about his potential opportunities at football offers as well. JJ Edmondson and Caden Considine, obviously the other two that can definitely play at the next level at a high level as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Byron can continue to roll on. What's your thoughts here before we start to look at Dupek?
Yeah, obviously, Byron won, kind of like we all expected him to. Kind of, we'll talk about when we talk about Dupek, but it just, I wonder if Byron has that slow start like they did last time against Dupek, or do they just come up firing on all cylinders and kind of just from the start establish that they're Byron and they're going to do Byron things. I think that's kind of the difference I'm looking for in the games this time.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely going to be tough for Dupek when you take a look. That week 6 game with Byron was probably their first taste of the most physical game that they would have to play. And then they had Stockton in week 8, Lena Winslow in week 9, and then they just faced Johnsburg. So as far as like the physicality, I think they pretty much have had that each of the last 5 weeks. So now it's what can they do? And let's not forget they did have Forston in there, and Forston gave them everything that they could handle as well. So it's one of those things. Can Dupek continue to stand up to that test? Obviously, Byron has not had that many physical competitions this year. Their biggest competition was Dixon back in week 2, and then Byron in week 6. Since then, it's been clockwork, and let's get done by halftime and go eat hot dogs on the sidelines. Not saying they're actually doing that, but metaphorically speaking. But you know what I get. You know what I mean. It's been get through the first half and then let the reserves play the second half type of thing. I think Dupek can play up to the physicality level. What they have to do is ensure that they get to the right spots, play sound fundamentally, but they have to be able to hit lower. You're not going to be able to take Considine one-on-one, chest to chest. You have to get lower. You got to take out his legs to get him to the ground. Because if you watch him run, more times than not, he's finishing forward on everything. And the power and drive that he has is just something to watch. I mean, it's just amazing how much power he can run with. And of course, his increased speed this year has also helped him get some more breakaway level speed as well. So once he breaks the edge, he becomes a dangerous runner too. Same with Talbert. If you flush Talbert out of the pocket, now he becomes a running threat as well. So they definitely need to play more sound fundamentally there to where they can control it. Offensively, they're going to have to find a way to do things offensively that will help grind the clock, but then give them opportunities. They had a Ross out more connection in that game, ironically, as well. That gave them a lead at the half. But they have to be able to continue to do those things. And of course, Dermot Dolan is back in the backfield, so that will help out so that they have the rushing tandem of Rosso and Dolan. And then Tyler Tunick has definitely started to make a big impact on the ball offensively and defensively for the Rivermen too. So he needs to continue to be another option that Dupek looks at to help take focus off of Dolan. That could potentially open up this rushing attack even more so for Dupek, especially if they can do more misdirection in belly option stuff. Likewise, if they can get some quick hitting passes through the air, that will definitely offset what Byron is trying to do as well. But we'll take a look. Byron enters this game as a 16-point favorite. What else do you think?
Obviously, you touched on Dupex's kind of schedule the last couple weeks, so I wonder if from the last 5 weeks where they obviously they beat Forreston, they played the gauntlet of of Byron, Stockton, and Lena, throwing Johnsburg in there. It was a tight game. Who was clearly a very talented and good team in 3A. We've talked about how heavy this 3A North bracket is. I wonder if Dupec, from the level of competition they played the last few weeks and what they've learned from it, what can they do schematically to maybe find an exploit or take advantage of Byron to give themselves then 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s, and short fields, eat the clock away, keep in it. I wonder what they've figured out since then, because that's how they're gonna have to win this game is hold on the ball, long drives, and 3rd and manageables.
I agree. Byron is my pick to win. No hidden secret there. I would be excited to see if Dupec can pull this off. It would be a lot of fun. I was talking with Coach Demas and heard him talk about, if you're playing a Byron in the playoffs, that means you've done something right. You've won a playoff game or some playoff games in order to meet up with them. And that's exactly what they've done. This is Dupec's 6th consecutive round 1 playoff victory in their 6th playoff appearance as a program with the co-op. So they're obviously doing things in the right ways to build this program up. And of course, next year they transition into the Big Northern Conference. So this is going to become an annual game anyway after this. So they're going to have to get used to playing at this level if they want to continue to build the program and then become a power to be across the state of Illinois as well.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously he's right. If you're playing a Byron or any of them, you've definitely done something right. It's easier to get those 3rd and manageables on Byron, and it's easier said than done. So I like Byron too. But I think it'd be an interesting game for 2.5 quarters or so.
Right, I agree. All right, let's take a look at the games around the state. We'll start in Class 1A. We're going to take a look at that bracket there. So right away, you see right there, Stockton on that left side of the bracket is the favorite to win that one against Hayworth. Clifton Central and Dwight is an old SVC conference game that gets to reignite itself. Dwight, the 12 seed, Clifton Central, the 4 seed. Clifton Central favored by a 3 there to pick up the win, but that's a game that could potentially go either direction as well. So interesting to see that one hang out. Anawan Weathersfield and Deer Creek Mackinac. DMAC is the early favorite right now to move on to the quarterfinals. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about Anawan Weathersfield, rightfully so. They're undefeated coming out of the LLC, small side, and DMAC's coming out of the heart of Central Illinois, a conference that me and you have talked about in excess this year about how tough it may be or what we can't understand about it totally, as we have seen some of their teams fall out of the playoffs already. Some have moved on, like Hayworth and DMAC. Tri Valley's moved on. El Paso Gridley's moved on. So, it'll be interesting to say the least, but DMAC the favorite there. Lena Winslow over GCMS is the pick there. Calhoun and Greenfield Northwestern. That'll be an interesting conference rivalry game in the second round for a shot at the quarters. Calhoun obviously won that game 14-6. They're favored by 14 this week. KZ Westfield and Nokomis meet up. KZ Westfield's favored by 10. I'm already receiving some fun from the Nokomis fans because, well, how can you have KZ Westfield favored when they barely beat Tuscola and we beat Tuscola by 2 touchdowns? Well, that's not how it all works, but I'm glad that you're interested in following along with what's going on. Obviously, you pulled off an upset win to get there. And do you have opportunities? Absolutely. I don't think Casey Westfield is going to be a team that Nokomis can't beat. My pick's Casey Westfield to win that game. Camp Point Central and Brown County, another rivalry game set 15 minutes apart from each other. Those two met up in the regular season. Camp Point Central won that one 26-7 the first time around, or 27-6. And then DuPont and Carrollton. Interesting conversation here as Logan, we'll get talking about it because Steve Susie put out an article today talking about the Class 1A bracket being the NUIC and the WIVC, of which me and you have talked about it back before, that we had a high anticipation level that we're going to see an NUIC WIVC state championship matchup. But the WIVC has 5 of the 8 teams remaining in this bracket here. And of course, 2 of them 4 of them technically have to play each other. So there's an opportunity for 3 to move on.
My wish, my dream.
Yeah, that would be good. But Carrollton and DuPont. So let's touch base on that one quick. Carrollton is the favorite by 10. Obviously, I'm also getting some laughs from a DuPont mom. Everything I post, she's laughing at because I'm not picking DuPont. So congratulations to Mom. I love you. But with that said, DuPont's current head coach was initially awarded the head coaching position at Carrollton. Some things happened. He moved on to DuPont, and in came Rodney Flowers. And this was all at the end of Nick Flowers' tenure, right before Rodney Flowers came in. It was an interesting series of events. Give us some more information and background on that.
So, from my I think the community, obviously Coach Flowers has been there a long time. He's done a great job. He's been their defensive coordinator for both their state title runs. He's been there probably longer than I've been alive. He's done a great job, and just from what I remember and gathered, I think the community really wanted Coach Rodney Flowers to say, we don't get him and Coach Nick Flowers mixed up, to carry on what Coach Nick Flowers had built. And I think they, for their kids, because they trust him with their kids, he's done a great job there. He was part of that culture they built. So I think it was a big thing to do with that was just continuing on the culture that was built there and not bringing in someone that wasn't familiar with Carrollton. I don't know much about DuPont's coach personally. I know he's at CM beforehand. He's done a terrific job turning around DuPont. They've won their first playoff game since 1994. So clearly the guy is a formidable coach. Definitely from that storyline, just how that played out. It's interesting. Obviously today, Fox 2 posted something about DuPont aiming for a state title. Tall task ahead of them for that. I like Carrollton in this game. Just what we've seen out of the WIVC this year, there's 5 teams in the second round. The only loss to WIVC had last round was Camp Point in Winchester, a conference matchup. So I think you're going to get the 3 WIVC teams in the quarterfinals, and I'm pulling for Carrollton in this one.
Yeah, I saw that article about DuPont trying to make a run to state. They haven't made the semifinals since was it 1994 or was it
94?
I know they last won a playoff game in 94. I can't remember. I know that they were there in like 89 or 88, something like that as well. They did have some great teams there in the 80s and early 90s. But yeah, the article had pointed out that DuPont's just 2 wins away from reaching the state championship. It's like you still need to win 3 games to get there.
Yeah. They lost in 94 to Georgetown Ridge Farm in the semifinals, 6-30.
Yeah. Yeah, Ridge Farm. Where are they at these days? Joke. Anyway, yeah, obviously Carrollton got waxed by you guys 41-0. Likewise, they also they beat Greenfield Northwestern
13-7. Yep.
Yeah. So obviously there's a little bit of opportunity there for Carrollton to definitely come through with a big win, in my opinion, because yes, they got waxed by you guys, but they played tough against Greenfield Northwestern, who took both you, Calhoun, and Camp Point Central to great games. Both of them were losses for GNW, but they were both really, really good games. And if Carrollton can do that, which I know was a surprise, at the same time, that also makes them dangerous, in my opinion.
Yep, definitely. Just kind of looking what they did last week against, Oakwood, who Dupe only beat 28-7, and Curtin beat Oakwood 28-14, and you look at the one, similar opponent, which was Oakwood and Salt Fork. Oakwood beat Salt Fork 28-7. Just putting it out there, just saying. Carson Flowers was 12 of 19 last week, 154 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. He also had 10 total tackles, 2 TFLs. A big play that he made, this was in the third quarter at some point, he had a block punt. That punt ended up at the 1, which resulted in a Charlie Stump touchdown the next play. And Charlie had a big day. He was 13 of 80 rushing, 2 touchdowns. Also had 5 receptions for 49 yards and a touchdown to go along with 13 tackles and 4 pass breakups. Brady Clendetting only ran the ball 1 play, but that 1 play was a touchdown. And then Eli Rhodes had 2 catches for 63 yards and a game-sealing interception. Something of note that I think is big considering the stat, Oakwood went for it on 8th down 8 times, or 4th down on it, went for it on 4th down 8 times. They only converted 1 of those. So obviously Oakwood had some, I would say, 4th and manageables and could not convert. So the Carrollton defense was stingy. It's always stingy. Rodney does a great job over there. So no surprise there. I got some stuff here on Dupo as well. Their quarterback, all-time leader in every quarterback category, 4-year starter, I believe. 9 of 16 last week, 124 yards and 2 passing TDs, 7 of 50 rushing. He also had 10 tackles, 2 interceptions. 1 was a 32-yard pick 6. As a defense, Dupo had 3 sacks and 4 interceptions. Talon Simhauser and I'm going to call him Stags because I can't pronounce his first name. Both had an INT. And Staggs also added in 3 receptions for 26 yards and a touchdown. Brady Portell led the way with 3 receptions and 84 yards for a touchdown. Carrollton's favored by 10 points.
Nice. I like it. I think Carrollton will win this one. Looking at crossed, round 2 here, in your opinion, what stands out as the best game, or one of the best games, both sides of the bracket?
I mean, not to sound biased, but right away my eyes go to us in Greenfield and in Brown County and Camp Point. Just right away. I mean, obviously us in Greenfield played week 6. I think Camp Point and Brown County played week 6. And it was 14-6 for us, and Camp Point was 27-6, I should say, against Brown County the first meeting. We saw what Brown County did to Athens last week. I think that speaks to the quality and level of team that they are. They've been a top 10 team all year, in my opinion, and it's not relatively close. Brown County has. So I wonder what they've learned from their 2 meetings with, obviously, us and Camp Point, and what they can do to improve upon that to win, to get over the hump, as they want to put it, because it's a big game. If they get over the hump, a lot of momentum. I think this will be a good game. Obviously, Camp Point's favored by 11. Kind of just looking at that last week, I got some stuff here. This is only their 2nd meeting in the playoffs, and that was back in 2013 where Camp Point won 41-0. Talking about BC, ran the ball 44 times last week for 345 yards between Jack Sefton, Bo Little, and Trey Fullerton. Bo Little had touchdown runs of 69 yards and a 7-yard TD run. Sefton had runs of 8, 68, and 5 for a touchdown, plus a 23-yard reception for a touchdown. And Fullerton had at least 70 yards on the day. Vince Little had 2 touchdown passes of 7 and 23. And Wyatt Casing added an interception to BC defense, also had a fumble recovery. On the other side for Camp Point, Cale Niekamp, Caden's little brother, the quarterback, was 3 of 5 passing for 60 yards. He ran 5 times for 36 yards and a touchdown, and was announced 6 tackles on defense. Curtis Riggs, one of the fastest kids in the WIVC by far, 9 for 56 on the ground and a touchdown, plus 1 reception for 13 yards, added in 3 tackles on defense. Zach Ware, 14 of 86 rushing, 1 touchdown, and then he also added in 6 tackles. And Caden Niekamp, he made his long-awaited return to being a full-time kind of rotation player. And so he's finally looking like he's finally healthy. Ran the ball 4 times for 19 yards and a touchdown with 9 tackles, with 2 of those being TFLs. Luke Ippison, I hope that pronouncing that right. Not, I apologize. He was 9 of 73 rushing. And then Briggs Wishkirkin had 10 tackles along with Chase Barner, who had 7 of his own, to lead the CPC defense, who also recovered a fumble. They're favored by 8 points.
Awesome. Well, let's take a look at Class 2A here as we move on. We'll take a look around the bracket as well. And there it is. So in Class 2A, we have Rockridge and Tri-Valley meeting up in the second round. Rockridge is projected to win that one by 21 points. Wilmington and Seneca is another game that a lot of people are very interested and intrigued about. But Wilmington, we've said it all year, they were going to be the heavy favorite in 2A. If they came into the 2A field, they're here. They're projected to win this one by 25 points. Seneca, obviously, an undefeated team. Talking about Susie, he said that this could be the fastest game in all of the round 2 playoffs this week. He thinks that with the kickoff starting at 6, it'll be over and you'll be in your car by 8 o'clock, if not sooner.
I saw that.
Another great matchup is El Paso Gridley and Newman. Definitely be interested to see that one. I was actually kind of surprised that El Paso Gridley was projected as the favorite there, especially with the way Newman took care of Ridgeview Lexington. But I also think that El Paso Gridley would have done the same thing to Ridgeview Lexington. I think that Ridge Lex was kind of smoke and mirrors 7-0 team, and clearly they lost their last 3 games to end the season. But either way, I think this is definitely a toss-up game, but El Paso Gridley is the projected winner. I would not be surprised if Newman wins. Farmington Aurora Christian, that is another big game that I'm very intrigued about. And we talked about this 2A bracket. I mean, if you take a look at a lot of these projections, outside of Rockridge and Wilmington, which I think is everybody's favorite to be the state champion, everybody else has projected close scores with the exception of Pana and Flora. And I've received some new fans down in Flora now too, because they don't like the fact that I keep picking against them. It's like, well, you just won your first playoff game in 15 tries. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it was great. I'm glad that they won. And to be quite honest, if they do beat Pana, I'll be more than excited to talk about Flora again next week. I just don't think that they're going to beat Pana. Pana has Coach Ramsey there, who's been to, 6 state championship games now, or 7?
Quite a few.
Yeah, he's been, it's been 7, because he's gone with St. Teresa twice, and he went with Central A&M 5 times. So, obviously he's 2-5 in those state championship games, but he's been there 7 times. He is a Hall of Famer, and he knows what playoff football is all about. Flora, this is their first taste of the second round ever. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But, like I said, Flora wins, they win. Maroa Forsyth and Johnson City, that's another interesting one. I'm surprised Maroa Forsyth isn't favored by more, but they have been having problems stopping power run games, and that's exactly what Johnston City does. And, of course, run teams win in November. But Maroa Forsyth has never lost to Johnston City in the playoffs. In fact, every game's been like 42-6 or somewhere in that ballpark of a score. So obviously this game was a game that was featured in the semifinals a season ago, happening now in the second round. So Johnson City has to go on the road for this one as the 1 seed. You got to go up to the Boyd. But I think that they want to show Maroa what they can do. Very intrigued by that one, but it's hard to pick against Coach Jostis when you're in the playoffs. considering that, he's been at the state championship, 9 times, 10 times, something like
Quite a
that.
bit.
Yeah. Westville and DuQuoin is another interesting matchup. I think that will be a big one there as well. I honestly feel that the winner of that game is the favorite to get to the championship game out of that South bracket. I have Westville favored, or Westville is projected to win by 4. I do personally have Westville picked to win this game as well, as Westville is the team that I have picked to make that state championship game appearance when we get to normal in a couple weeks. And then Arthur Lovington at Winhaven in Cumberland. This is a game. Allah is only favored by 1. They won by 2 touchdowns earlier in the season. Cumberland definitely feels that they can do some things differently to pull off a win here. So I'm intrigued by it. I mean, Coach Jefferson at Allah has done a lot of great things trying to get them to a better level and a higher level. He's been getting them into the playoffs on a yearly basis, but they still have not had a lot of playoff success. This could be that time where they change that and get to that quarterfinal round.
Yeah, definitely can agree with that. Like you said, they haven't had the success in the playoffs. They've obviously been a very good regular season team, just haven't gotten over that hump yet. And it takes a few tries when you're building a culture like he has. I mean, all is for the most part, it's a pretty new existence to the world. So I like what he does there. I think they're by far the most physical team in that league, just out of what I've watched. And I think physicality and run teams win in November. So I think all is going to get to the quarterfinals, in my opinion.
Any other interesting matchups that you see, in your opinion, across either side of the bracket here?
I mean, Johnson City, Monroe sticks out to me because if there were, and this isn't me picking on Johnson City, it's just how it's going. If there was ever a year for Johnson City to finally get over the hump and be a contender in the South, like a Morello Forsyth, it feels like this is the year. I don't think it'll happen. I think Morello Forsyth will win. I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a close game, but I just don't see it this year with Johnson City.
I agree.
Sorry, TP talk.
Yep. Oh, the TP boys. I love the tribe, though. They are a lot of fun to talk about.
Definitely, they're fun to watch. I love their style of offense. I think they do great things. They do this. It feels like the Black Diamond does this every year.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of conversation around that too, is the Black Diamonds trying to say that they are a great conference. But your best team is Johnson City, and has been for quite a while now. And even the one year that they lost to Cesar-Valliere, we watched Cesar-Valliere get waxed in the 1A playoffs. So not to be mean or anything, but I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, the facts are what they are, and it just, I don't know.
Like what Greenfield did to Cesar last week.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, let's move into Class 3A here before we wrap this show up. Okay, right there, round 2. Richmond, Burton, Aurora Central Catholic. We talked about it on the playoff show. Yeah, we talked about that on the playoff show. Richmond, Burton, they had the easiest walk to the quarterfinals that they could possibly get. This game is probably going to be even easier than what they had against North Boone, and they absolutely obliterated North Boone 49-0. They're projected to win this one by 49 points as well. Bloomington Central Catholic, Monmouth, Roseville. Come on, Kyle, say it. Monmouth, Roseville. They play in a 5-4 matchup here in Bloomington. That'll be a great opportunity for these two teams to square up with each other. It'll be very interesting to see the likes of Valshawn Poe for Bloomington Central Catholic go up against Nick Houston for Monmouth, Roseville. I think the Titans have definitely the experience and the size to be able to go up against a Bloomington Central Catholic, but I just think that BCC is a favorite here, as one, they're typically a 3A school that has slid into the they're typically a 2A school that's moved into the 3A field, but they play in a 3A conference. And that conference has been, a pretty tough one at that. But when it comes to these playoffs, they don't have a lot of success once they get to the state championship game. So seeing Bloomington Central Catholic in the North bracket brings more intrigue. And of course, that'll bring even more intrigue the following week if they do win and they have to square up with Richmond Burton, because then we literally have 4 of the top 5 teams, if not all 4. Actually, it would be all 4 top teams sitting in the North bracket in the quarterfinals, getting ready to square off with each other. Bloomington Central Catholic favored to win by 10 points there. Byron and Dupec we already talked about, so we'll pass over that. Byron, obviously, the favorite to win that one. Bishop McNamara and IC Catholic. Again, another group of fans. Good old Kankakee. Bishop McNamara fans are definitely jumping on my bandwagon, or not, or giving me heat anyway. They think that they can go in and compete with this IC Catholic team. And, me and you have talked about it. I've talked about it with some other people as well from around the state who have seen Bishop McNamara play and know exactly what IC Catholic is. The projection here has IC Catholic winning by 29. Massey had IC Catholic by 28. Everybody I've talked to says IC Catholic's at least a 3-touchdown favorite, if not more, over Bishop McNamara. So it'll be interesting to see if the Fighting Irish can give the Knights a true contest. But IC Catholic for the win there. Williamsville Porta, we've already discussed that one at the kickoff of the show. Williamsville favored big there. Tolono Unity and Monticello, that's a repeat game of a conference game in the Illini Prairie as well. Tolono Unity won that one big the first time around. They're projected to win big again this time around. But they cannot overlook Monticello. Obviously, you have Cully Walter there as the head coach, a distinguished head coach of that, already a Hall of Famer, multi-state champion. And to be quite honest, he's the only coach to come out of the Illini Prairie and win a state championship. So we'll see what transpires there, but Tolono Unity is the favorite. They are actually my pick to get to the state championship game as well. Have been since the brackets broke out, especially after we saw BCC go to the north. Vandalia, Greenville. Obviously, Greenville got the upset of Olympia. Greenville, Vandalia. I can't remember. Is that a conference game? Or
Yeah,
cross
it is.
game? Yeah,
it's
it's
a conference game.
And Vandalia won that one in the regular season as well. So another conference repeat here. Vandalia favored by 11. And then St. Joe Ogden and Roxana. Again, St. Joe Ogden getting that big upset win over Benton. 3-seed Benton, by the way. And Benton was a team that I felt could make a run for the state championship game, especially considering them falling back into the 3A field this year. But St. Joe Ogden got that one, and now they move into a game with Roxana where they have to go down to Roxana, and they are the favorite in this game. And I tell you what, if all 3 of those games go as projected, you have 3 Illini Prairie teams sitting in the quarterfinals in the 3A bracket as well. So it goes back to what we've talked about a lot with that conference and the style of play that those teams have. And I'd be interested because I wouldn't be surprised if St. Joe Ogden, if they do win next week, and Vandalia were to win, if they win that game too.
I think I'll call my shot right now. I think you're looking at St. Joe Ogden. I think you're looking at Tolono Unity semifinal.
And wouldn't that be something if that were the semifinal? Because that's a huge rivalry between those two schools. Both of them have made 6 state championship appearances. Both of them are 0-6 in state championship games. But great history through both of those schools. So I'd be excited for it. I'd be down for that one. Anyway,
St.
that
Joe.
gives you a look at the 3A North or 3A bracket. Any games stand out to you, Logan, before we finish up here?
St. Joe and Roxana does. That's a rematch from 2 years ago, and I think it was also the second round there too. Where Roxana came out on top, and that was the year Roxana waited to the semifinals, and they would lose to eventual runner-up Mount Carmel. We saw what Byron did to them, so I find it interesting. I think Joe's gets revenge, and I think they make the run to the semifinals, a 14 seed, a tough 14 seed, I'll add.
Right. I agree.
Other than that, obviously I think Tolono's out for vengeance after losing in last year's semifinal in a fairly controversial way. So I know they wanna get back to Bloomington, or they haven't been to Bloomington. I know they want to get to Bloomington. They want to get back to a state title game. So I like Tolono. Those are the ones that stick out to me.
Yeah, I agree. I do. They've been like I said, they've been my favorite to win the South bracket since the brackets came out. And when we were doing projections and we saw that BCC had the potential of going north, it was my first comment. Man, that really opens up the door for Tolono Unity. And wouldn't it be great if BCC stayed to the south, because we could potentially see a BCC Tolono Unity semifinal game and have ourselves a good 3A state championship game. But hey, it is what it is. And like I said, you got the top 4 teams in the state all projected to win to move into the quarterfinal rounds, all in that North bracket. And we talked about how tough that 3A North bracket was going to be.
Sets up a very interesting quarterfinal.
Yeah. But anyway, obviously we got a lot to talk about here coming up next as we move into the 8-man stuff, as I'll be joined by Joe Merdian and Jay Doyle to talk about 8-man football when we return right after this. So we'll see you again next week. When it comes to concrete floors, don't settle for ordinary. Upgrade to extraordinary with Diedrich Epoxy. Whether it's your garage, basement, shop, or business, Diedrich Epoxy delivers durability, style, and a flawless finish built to last. Locally owned and trusted, they'll transform your space with professional epoxy flooring that stands up to whatever life throws at it. Take the first step today. Call Diedrich Epoxy at 815-239-1158 and bring strength and style to your floors. Need a fresh look? Look no further than Neff Paints, where quality meets craftsmanship. From gyms and locker rooms to living rooms and home projects, Neff Paints has you covered with top-tier products and expert service. Trusted by local pros and proud supporters of our area athletes, Neff Paints brings the durability, color, and finish that lasts. Ready to get started? Call Skylar at 815-541-7338 and take the first step toward your next transformation. Neff Paints, locally owned, community-driven, quality you can see. We joined Joe Merdian to talk about some 8-man football. Originally, we were supposed to have Jay Doyle here, but he got his days confused. That's all right, not a big deal. But we're heading into the quarterfinals, and the top 8 seeds all moved into the quarterfinals as I had projected last week. But there was a little bit of surprise with some of these quarterfinal games that we thought. There was a couple of games that we knew would be close. There was a couple of games that we thought would be closer. Joe, what's your takeaway on round 1 here?
Yeah, so just to touch on a few of those games, Kyle, I actually had predicted Metro East, the 11 seed, to beat St. Anne, and St. Anne, ended up winning that game, taking I think it was a 5-point lead at halftime, ended up winning by a score of 39-20. So that score definitely surprised me a little bit there in that one. The Pawnee FCW game was very close throughout before Pawnee scored 2 late scores to win that one. And then the Polo Hiawatha game was close at halftime. Polo had 5 turnovers in that game. Hiawatha was able to hang around, but eventually Polo was able to win. They shut out Hiawatha in the second half for the 36-14 win. So those were kind of the 3, Kyle, that stuck out to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the rest of them really went the way that they were supposed to go. or that we expected to go. South Fork, big win. Milledgeville, big win. Amboy, big win. West Carroll, big win. So, yeah, not really huge, but obviously that polo game was a little bit closer than the original contest. Not much, but just a little bit. But obviously having the impacted loss of Mercer Mumford kind of limited what
Right.
polo could do to a degree, but at the same time you can tell the depth of the team to a point too, because they won weeks 1 and 2 without Mumford, and now they won round 1 of the playoffs without
Right.
him too. So
Yep.
just an unfortunate situation there, but regardless, polo still very, very tough.
Right. And Kyle, just a couple of notes here. So the 4 NUIC teams all advanced: Milledgeville, Amboy, Polo, West Carroll. So those teams, all of them have never lost in the first round of the 8-man playoffs. So
18-0,
pretty,
correct?
18-0, yes. So pretty impressive.
So while we're taking a look at that, let's pull up that 8-man scoreboard by Byron Wealth Management from round 1. So there it is. Milledgeville over Meridian, 66-16. That was a 60-0 game at halftime. West Carroll over West Central, 42-8. That was a 19-0 game at halftime. Amboy over MCP, 68-8. I can't remember what that halftime score was. And
I believe
then
it was
Polo,
62-8, I believe.
yeah. And then Polo over Hiawatha, 36-14. So like you said, Joe, all 4 teams advance. All 4 teams remain undefeated in the first round of the playoffs. An accumulative 18-0. Impressive, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, Colin. I believe Polo and Milledgeville have played all their games at home in the first round. Actually, West Carroll also. Amboy that first year, that's when they went on the road and upset, if you call an upset, a 10 over a 7, I believe it was at that point. Beat Freeport Akron in that first round. But other than that, all these teams have had good enough records. They're always hosting, that first round game, which makes a difference. And all in all, Kyle, just in a general statement for the 8-man, basically since the inception of the playoffs, we haven't seen many lower seeds winning that first round. Usually it seems like those better teams winning that first round. And even though I know in our 8-man spotlight podcast, we had talked throughout the year how there was a lot of maybe some more depth than there has been in the past. And I really think some of these mid-tier teams are maybe better than they have been in the past, but still at the end of the day, you saw the top seeds, come away with victories in that first round.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's hard to find those upset wins. I mean, a couple years ago, we watched Ridgewood come in as the 9 seed. They got an upset, but it wasn't really an upset. That Ridgewood team was 7-2, and were expected to be where we thought that they would get to, which was the state championship game.
Right.
And they had 2 tough losses. One was to Amboy that year, and the other one was to Polo, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So not a huge surprise in that one, but like you said, a lot of your top teams reside. I mean, I've been saying that for the last 5 years I've been covering 8-man football. Your top 8 are legit top 8 teams more times than not.
Correct.
And it goes back to like the whole rating system this year when we had like a West Carroll at 6-2 or 5-2 or whatever the hell they were, ranked above or rated above some of these other teams that were 8-1 or 9-0. And I mean, granted, you still have everybody alive, but I think some of that score separation and differential, you're starting to see the true impact it really has, and where the strength of schedule really does show itself, along with that at this point in time, whether people like it or not, the northern teams are still dominating the 8-man game at the current moment.
Yep.
And
And Kyle, well, let's be honest. You and me have been doing this a long time. I know a lot of people watching us on this or listening to this have been following small school football in Illinois for a long time. A lot of it's no different than 11 man as far as the scores. You know, the
no,
Lenas, the Stocktons, the Forstons, the Galenas. You know, you name it. The Dakotas back in the day, the Acklins. You know, they're gonna make the semis. They're gonna make the quarters every year. Like it's no different. You know, so I don't think people should be surprised when you see some of this northern domination, I guess, so to speak.
I know people ask about it all the time, and I wish there was like this magic potion that I could say this is what happens. But there's not. I don't know what it is. There's just a level of physicality that has gone away a lot in the game of football. And our area, the state, still lives by that style of play.
Right.
And
Yeah, I mean,
that in
that's the
my
bottom line.
that in itself is where it is. We just
Yep.
want to line up and we literally want to punch you in the mouth. And
Yep.
we play that way.
You want to run the ball and play defense, you know.
It
So
um
that's where it's at.
and I mean I get it. There's a lot of changing of the game across all sports. I mean, I've had people argue with me in depth about, well, that style of football that you guys are playing aren't getting kids college looks. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Do you
Right.
understand what college coaches actually look at? Like, if
Yeah.
I'm looking at a tight end and I can see he can catch a ball just by watching them in warmups, why do I care if he catches 10 passes in a game? I want to see how he
No.
blocks, because maybe that's what our offense needs, is a blocking tight end. Or,
Right.
if I can tell that quarterback can throw, maybe that will give me the opportunity to see what he can do, but how is he going to manage the offense?
Right.
Those are things that coaches are actually looking at, and I don't
Oh
think
yeah.
it
They're
hinders.
looking for the intangibles, you know.
Right. I don't think that they care that a kid caught a ball 20 times in a game and set a new school record or whatever. They don't care about that. They
Right.
care, can this kid play in my offense? Or can
Right.
this kid play in my
Exactly.
defense? That's what they look at.
Yeah. For sure.
I find it funny when people argue that. And it's like, nah, you can, any college coach worth a damn can tell talent from talent regardless of stats.
That's right. For sure.
All right, Joel, let's get to our first game. We got
All
the
right.
number 1 ranked and number 1 seeded Milledgeville Missiles at 10-0, playing host to the number 8 seeds. And ironically, the number 8 ranked South Beloit Sobos at 8-2. South Beloit beat Alden Hebron Oshla for the second time this year, 37-6. Milledgeville topples Meridian 66-16. Obviously, South Beloit took care of an injury-riddled Alden Hebron team, but not by as much as it had in the prior meeting when they won 49-7. Milledgeville obviously made quick work out of Meridian, as we kind of expected would happen, as they jumped out to a 60-0 lead by halftime. Give us a rundown of what your thoughts are on this potential matchup. It's something that we've talked about. We've noticed the change for South Beloit at quarterback, moving Caden Cook to quarterback in recent weeks, and based off of their first round game, he was at quarterback again this week too.
Yeah, just to look at some of the South Beloit stats before we get into breaking down this game from last week. Cook, as you mentioned, quarterback, 8 for 13, 212 yards, 3 scores. Chase Harrington, the junior running back, big fan of him, like the way he runs the football. 16 carries, 172 yards and a touchdown. Sophomore running back J.C. Scober had 7 carries for 55 yards and a touchdown. Zane Hagstrom, 2 catches, 131 yards, 2 TDs. And then Landon Reed, who's transitioned to wide receiver. He had a touchdown catch as well. Taking a look at the Milledgeville stats here, Kyle, real quick. Again, same names we've heard all season. Spencer Nye, 105 yards on the ground and TD. Also threw a touchdown pass for 45 yards. Connor Johnson had 3 receptions for 75 yards and 2 scores. 3 total touchdowns. Jaden Promenchiko, 5 attempts, 47 yards, 31-yard receiving TD. Quarterback, sophomore Kyson Francis, 5 for 8, 114 yards, 3 scores. Benny Mickelson, he also had he's the one that caught the 45-yard pass from Nye. So again, several guys getting it done in the stat column there for Milledgeville. Kyle, this is a rematch of last year's first round game. It was the 6-11 matchup. Milledgeville won that game in a running clock situation. Kyle, I'll start with Sopuloid here a little bit. I've seen him play twice in person. Definitely got some talent on offense. I was a little surprised though when I heard they moved Cook to quarterback. But he's put up some good numbers, and I think some of that maybe is because he's a little bit more of a threat to run the ball from that quarterback position than Reed was. But again, that's just my opinion. I don't know the whole story there. But they definitely got some weapons on offense. You got Cam Meister outside, a wide receiver, big 6'3" frame. And then again, Harrington and Scober in the backfield. Scober's kind of that big bruising sophomore fullback type, and Harrington's more of the scat back, quick to the edge type of player. It'll be interesting to see if South Beloit can get Harrington to the edge. Also, if they can give Cook time to throw, and try to get the ball to Meister. The South Beloit, the two toughest teams on their schedule, they lost to, gave up quite a bit of points to West Carroll and to Polo weeks 8 and 9. So their defense concerns me a little bit. Them being able to stay disciplined for 4 quarters on the defensive side of the ball is a concern for me. Especially against a talented team like Milledgeville. And again, Kyle, Milledgeville, they're just rolling all cylinders. They're not relying on one guy to get the job done. We ran through those stats, Kyle. We didn't even mention Carter Livingood and Evan Shank.
What? Who?
So those are first team all conference guys that we didn't even mention there on the stat sheet.
Who?
So yeah, right. So I mean, Kyle, I like Milledgeville in this one. Can South Beloit maybe put some points up on Milledgeville? I don't know. I just don't know if they have enough defensively, Kyle, for 4 quarters to be able to slow Milledgeville down at all. Where are you leaning as far as that goes?
Yeah, I agree. I think that South Beloit, while we've talked about them a lot, and by the way, they are the 7th ranked team in state, not the 8th ranked. I had to go back and look. And Speaking on that real quick, ironically, we've had the final 8 teams have been in the state rankings since week 6 in the top 10, and since week 8 they've been in the top 8. So obviously it's all played out as we expected it would, where the top 8 ranked teams are all here, which is great. That's what you want to see, right?
Exactly.
But as far as this game goes, we watched South Beloit have issues against Polo. Likewise, we watched Polo fight in a good battle with Milledgeville, but I never felt like Milledgeville wasn't going to win that game.
Right.
I felt that Polo had opportunities, but despite the closeness of that game until the last 5 or 6 minutes of that game, I still felt like Milledgeville was the better team. And obviously they pulled away with some late touchdowns to make it a 3-score separation of what was really a 1-score game all game long, or within 2 points really, but still you had to score again to make the difference. But despite that, defensively, Milledgeville is just on a whole nother level than what Polo is as well, all the way around.
Right.
They're fast. They're probably the hardest hitting team, if not the second hardest hitting team in the entire state in 8-man football. And to me, while South Beloit has some big guys, they're definitely going to have the size advantage in this game. You said, I don't know if they have everything available to be able to withstand the nuances that Milledgeville can deliver to them.
Right. And that's the thing, how you look at South Beloit, as we've talked about and we've seen them. They do have some weapons on the offensive side. I say that, but then in the next sentence here, I'm going to say I still don't know where I would necessarily say they may have an advantage at anywhere against Milledgeville. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Because like you stated, can they score? I think they have potential opportunities to score.
Right.
Obviously Harrington out of the backfield. I agree 100% with you that he is one of the best running backs that we've seen all year. His stats just aren't there. That's not a knock on him. That's just the style of offense that South Beloit wants to run.
Right.
I think if you put Harrington on another team, let's say you put him on a Milledgeville and Amboy, hell, even put him on Orangeville, he's going to have a big season.
Right.
Because of the style of offense that they play. Polo is another one,
Right.
But when you take a look at what he can do for the Sobo offense, I mean, he's a game changer, whether you give him the ball out of the backfield or you put him into a passing route out of the backfield and get him into space that way.
Right.
He's just a dynamic option that's available. The problem with him is he's not very big. So if you can shore him up at the line of scrimmage, you're going to have an easy time taking him down because he's a scat back. He's not a middle of the line type of
Right.
runner. He's a scat back type. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just,
Yeah.
he's just a littler guy. And I mean, he's fun to watch, but it becomes easier to take down too.
Well, and that's the
If you
thing.
can
Like,
keep him in check.
they're probably going to try to get Harrington the outside some, but the way Nye and Sarber close so quickly, along with Shank and Johnson from those corner spots. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be able to get. Yeah, he'll probably have a few big plays here and there, but I don't know as far as game changing plays that South Beloit's going to get those from Harrington like they're used to
where
here.
you said it right there. So not only are Nye and Sarber great at filling the gaps and making plays defensively,
Right.
but you have two very good defensive backs that
Yes.
help out and play downhill and run support,
Right.
which in turn could expose them to play action. If
Right.
they bite run first, that's where South Beloit could find success.
Yeah. And I don't
But
think
you're
you'll
also
see-
talking about two of the best defensive backs in the entire state too.
Right. And I don't think you even see South Beloit try to run the ball up the middle with Living Good in the middle there. The game week 9 against Polo, even though they scored quite a few points against Polo, they gave up on the run, running up the gut pretty quickly with Plackno and Rao in the middle there, for Polo. So I don't think that'll be their game plan at all. I think it's got to be a lot of quick hitters to the outside, a lot of quick tosses to Harrington, hope he breaks one here or there, and take your chances.
That's what I'd be looking for. I'd be looking for, so they moved Landon Reed to wide receiver, and you still have Cam Meister, who didn't show up on our stat sheet here, but you have him available too. If you can get some quick hitting routes, quick slant routes, or get them out into the flats quick and throw quick action passes, that, in my opinion, is where South Beloit's going to have success. The problem I see is that they like to go for that home run ball too much.
Right.
And if they try to do that, they're actually hurting themselves, in my opinion.
I would agree.
Against this team.
Right. And can we move to the other side here? Okay, so you look at Milledgeville's offense against South Beloit's defense. Like, I just don't see South Beloit. If Milledgeville says we're just going to line up and give it to Spencer Nye and get 5, 6, 7 yards of carry, I don't see South Beloit. Yeah, they might stop him once or twice for a 2 or 3 yard game, but I don't see him being able to do that consistently. I just don't see it.
No. So that goes back to my point. We're going to see South Beloit have opportunities to score.
Right.
The problem is they're not going to stop Milledgeville.
Right.
And if South Beloit can score, now they got to figure out a way to stop Milledgeville. And to be quite honest, I don't think they play in the physical capacity to stand up to Milledgeville.
Right. And Cal, the other thing I'll say, if there is maybe a formula to stay in a game with Milledgeville, it's to milk the play clock. Use 39 seconds of that play clock, pick up a couple first downs. Before you know it, you burn half the quarter up. You keep Kais and Francis, then offense off the field. That's not South Beloit's style, Kyle. It's just
No.
not their style.
They like to play fast, and I don't want to. I'm not saying that they need to change everything that they do.
Right, me neither.
But they like to play fast, and that's their game style.
Yeah,
I just think that game style is going to have a hard time against Milledgeville.
I agree. So I see here you have Milledgeville as a 23-point favorite here in your notes. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Projected
I like
final
Milledgeville
score.
obviously in this.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What's that?
Go ahead. I didn't want to
No, go ahead.
interrupt you. Go ahead. I said that
just-
the projected final score based off of the ratings
Oh, yeah.
is Milledgeville 45-20.
Okay.
So
I mean,
that's
yeah, I could see something in that area. I'm going to go more, Milledgeville probably in the high 40s in this one. I'm going to say more like a 48-12 type of game. I really think it's.
I agree with you. I think that if
know.
South Beloit gets more points on the board, it's going to come because of a running clock situation.
Right.
I think that if they keep it from being a running clock, you're going to see this type of score, like you said, 48-12, 46-12, somewhere in that ballpark. If they find a way, like you stated, to grind out clock time and keep possession of the ball longer, then they're definitely going to drive that Milledgeville score down. But in my opinion, exactly what you stated, that's going to be their best defense.
Yeah, I think it's a deal where Milledgeville would have to beat themselves. If Milledgeville turns the ball over 3 times, can South Beloit hang in there? Yeah, they can.
Oh, absolutely. They have the playmakers to do it.
They're good enough if Milledgeville makes mistakes. It's not one of those where Milledgeville can turn it over 4 or 5 times and expect to running clock them. I mean,
this
but
game
if
is not
Milledgeville,
outside of the realm of an upset.
no, if Milledgeville does what they do, gives the ball an eye, Francis short passes to Johnson and Shank and let them do the rest, hit Livingood going down the seam once or twice a game. I mean, I just don't know if South Beloit can have enough to hang in there. So again, I like Milledgeville big in this one, but we'll see what happens.
Yep, I agree. I like Milledgeville big as well. Our next game takes us to Pawnee, where the Indians enter with the 4 seed. They're ranked number 6 in state, entering the playoffs. They are 9-1. They are playing host to the 5 seed and number 2 ranked Amboy Clippers, the 2-time defending state champions. The Clippers also come in with a matching 9-1 record. Amboy beat MCP last week 68-8. Pawnee beat FCW 42-30. That in itself is a great comparison game, as Amboy played FCW earlier this year, and I believe they won that one 46-18.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yep.
So that gives you a good comparison of what this game could potentially be. Amboy and Pawnee find themselves in familiar territory as they met up in the semifinals a year ago, also down in Pawnee, where the Clippers won that game 52-8 to completely silence the Pawnee crowd in the first 2 quarters. Obviously, Coach Talley and his crew want to reverse that and are definitely going to be looking at the opportunity to do so. When you take a look at Pawnee first, Caden Ward just became the IFA all-time leading passer, surpassing former Milledgeville great Connor Nye. He was 11 for 17 passing for 184 yards and 4 touchdowns. Entering that game, he just needed 6 yards to surpass Nye on that list. He got that on his first pass of the game.
Yeah.
That went for like 30 yards or whatever it was. He also had 4 touchdowns. On the ground, he had 4 attempts for 46 yards as well. What was big in this game is they got run support by Jaden Adamako, 14 attempts for 108 yards and a touchdown. And then on the receiving side of the ball, Lucas Size had 2 receptions for 60 yards and a touchdown. Dakota Coyne had 2 receptions for 40 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Gavin Greer also had 2 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown. Joe?
Yeah. So, Pawnee, now 9-1 on the season, gets another shot at the defending state champs here. Again, as you said last year, in the semis, Amboy won this game 52-8. Let's take a look at the Amboy stats quick, Kyle, from last week before we dive into this game some more. Again, the 3 backs, I'm getting it done all year. Jose Lopez, 11 carries, 128 yards, 3 scores. Cole McCoy, 15 carries for 144 yards, and Caden Heath, 10 carries for 117 yards and 4 TDs. The quarterback, Tanner Welch, also had a 1-yard TD run. Kelly's 3 backs are averaging 10 yards, all over 10 yards per carry in the season. Nothing changed after week 10 there. So those are all pretty good averages they had there. Kyle, I can't help when I start thinking about this upcoming game, Amboy and Pawnee. Can't help but go back to, I think it was week 7.
Yep.
What South Fork did to Pawnee with their ground game. When Pawnee lost that 42-13. Now, I will give Pawnee credit. They bounced back, had a nice win that following week against a good Metro East team. But nonetheless, the yards they gave up on the ground to George Bailey, which, again, I get Bailey's been at a different level most of the season, and that off South Fork offensive line's been playing well. But Pawnee couldn't stop them, Kyle. And that concerns me heading into this matchup here. I'm going to start there. The way this Amboy ground game's going, I talked about on my Spotlight podcast earlier in the week. I think if you're Pawnee, Kyle, you just stack the box and hope they don't beat you with the play action pass, and you got to take your chances and just try to stop the run. I don't know. I know it's easier said than done, but and I know most teams have probably tried that. But the way this Amboy team's playing offensively, and again, you can't just say, okay, we're going to stop Lopez or we're going to stop Heath or we're going to stop McCoy. You can't just pick out one guy they're going to try to stop. So that's my biggest concern for Pawnee heading into this game is how are they, I don't think you're going to stop the run. You just got to try to hope to contain it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. That's going to be the toughest part. And that's one of the things that I think has gotten Amboy somewhat overlooked. I know none of the coaches have overlooked Amboy because every one of them has stated that it's Amboy's league until somebody beats them.
Right.
And since week 1, when they lost that tight game to Milledgeville, Amboy has gone full mission. Really no contest outside the FCW matchup where they got off to a slow first half start and then put the whooping stick on in the second half to pull out that win by a large margin, which just goes to further validate how much they can adjust from first half to second half, the same that they get off to fast starts.
Right, exactly.
If you go back to that loss back in week 1 in Milledgeville, okay, first off, week 1, almost an entirely new team. You only had a couple returning starters from last year's state championship team. Granted, all of these kids that are on this team have done nothing their entire careers but practice against state champions and or state runner-ups. That's all they know because Amboy's been there the last 3 years. So your seniors have never not seen the state game.
And they don't know anything else.
Your juniors, sophomores, and freshmen can't even remember the last time that Amboy lost a game in the playoffs.
Right,
Unless they were in attendance as 8th graders and 7th graders down in Monmouth when they lost to West Central.
Right.
So that's part of what they have going on. You also have week 1 jitters. You're going into a big
Right.
game with the other team that is looking to knock your block off because that's the team you beat the year before at state in a blowout fashion.
Right.
But what I'm trying to get at here is while Amboy did not score in the entire second half, I never felt like Amboy was ever out of that game until the final 30 seconds when the final turnover on downs happened to allow
Right.
Francis to take a knee and run out the clock.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing I'll say about that, Kyle, going back to week 1, that was the first game at quarterback for Tanner Wells, too. So now he's got, 10 games under his belt, so that makes a big difference as well.
It's huge.
And Kyle, the other thing
and
is...
And I haven't
go
seen
ahead.
Amboy play since week 1 outside of watching them on TV.
Yeah, I know. They, this Amboy defense, Kyle, I mean, what they're doing defensively, guys like Evan Flanagan, Caden Heat, Trevor Stenzel, Jose, I mean, all the names that we know, they are shutting down the other team's run game. I mean, just absolutely shutting them down. I mean, you're not seeing any rushing stats from these other teams when they play Amboy. Now, the positive there for Pawnee, they have the IAFA's all-time leading passer. So
He's a difference maker.
I'm not saying Pawnee should abandon the run from the opening snap. I'm not saying that.
You have to get a form of a run game going.
Right. Because the problem is when you get these passing teams and you play a team like Amboy, here's what happens, Kyle. I've seen it over and over. You've seen it too. So let's say first possession, Pawnee comes out and throws a couple incomplete passes, turns the ball over on downs, whatever. Okay, a couple incomplete passes stop the clock, right? So now Amboy's getting the ball with hardly any time off the clock. They draw down and score. Pawnee gets the ball back, a couple more incomplete passes. Turnover on downs again, or they have to punt. Okay, Amboy scores in a few plays. Well, all of a sudden, only 4 minutes come off the clock and you're already down 2 scores.
Yep.
Because you're throwing those incomplete passes. You can't go for the home run every time. I think if Pawnee's going to stay in this game, yeah, does Ward probably have to throw it 25 times? Yeah. But I think it's got to be a lot of short, quick slants and outs where you hopefully keep that clock running. You just pick up 4 or 5 yards and use it in your run game. You can't go for that home run every time.
No.
You don't want that clock stopping. If that makes sense. It does to me. I don't know if it does to anybody else, but
No, I agree because Amboy's got a great defense all around. I mean, where Milledgeville did find success against Amboy, ironically, was through the air.
Right, exactly.
Because Amboy was able to shut down Milledgeville's run game, forcing Milledgeville to go through the air. But then what Milledgeville didn't do is they didn't abandon the run game. They came back to it.
Right.
And because the pass game started to open up, now their run game became more effective at the same time.
Right.
And that was really the huge key for Milledgeville to get that win.
Right. I mean, if you're going to take your shot at knocking off the 2-time state champion, or a team like Pawnee, I mean, you got the IAFA's all-time leading passer. I mean, you got to put the ball in his hands, Kyle, and let him do his thing. But that being said, though, he's got to have time to get his feet set. He's got to have a little bit of time, and that's probably what concerns me the most in this game when Pawnee has the ball and Amboy's on defense. For Pawnee, is he going to have enough time to make those throws he needs to make?
Yeah. And I go all the way back to their week 0 scrimmage too.
Mm-hmm.
Amboy was able to do whatever they wanted in that scrimmage before Pawnee could ever get a score on the board. Now, granted, that's a scrimmage, so you got to take it for what it is. And likewise, I can guarantee you that Coach Talley knows exactly what he wants to do. He scheduled Amboy for a reason.
Exactly.
he wants to get his team better and more equipped to play against that style of team, because ultimately he knows that you're going to have to go through that kind of a team in order to get to the promised land.
Yep.
I was surprised. Amboy comes in this game as a 12-point favorite. I was expecting it to be a further gap than that.
I would agree with that. Yeah, Pawnee's, I just don't know if they can contain this Amboy run game. I think they got to sell out to stop the run. But then again, Amboy can beat you with that play action pass if you're not careful. Kyle, I'm looking at somewhere in the kind of like the same score I was thinking for Milledgeville and South Beloit, to be honest with you. Somewhere in that high 40s to maybe a 12, 14 points for Pawnee. Like a 48-14 type of game is kind of where I'm leaning here a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think Pawnee gets more than 2 touchdowns. That's just my opinion. And if they do, that will be great for the Indians. That means that they're having more success. The projections have Amboy winning 42-20. I think this is going to be more like 48-8, 48-12.
Yeah.
That's where I think it's going to be.
I
If
would
it's
agree.
closer than that, tip your hat to Pawnee, because obviously they've done a lot to grow what they've done since that loss to South Fork.
Yep. And Kyle, let's throw one more thing out there. If Amboy wins, they will host the semifinal, whether it be Milledgeville or South Beloit at the Harbor. So with them going on the road this week and them being, Milledgeville hosting their second round game, South Beloit would have one home, one away, and Amboy's the better seed. Either way, Amboy wins. They host the semifinal at the Harbor. So
Yep.
that would be a tough foe for either team, obviously. If Amboy beats Pawnee and you got to go to the Harbor for the semifinal.
So there you have it, Clipper fans. A win, and you get to come back home.
Yeah.
Which, who doesn't want to be home for the semifinals? All right, we'll be right back when we return right after this. If you or your loved one has been injured, you need someone who will fight for you. Reese and Reese Injury Attorneys have been serving our community for over 40 years, standing up for people when they need it most. They know how to handle the insurance companies and get results, so you can focus on healing. Don't face it alone. Call Reese and Reese Injury Attorneys today at 815-968-8851 and let their experience work for you. Thinking about buying or selling a home? Trust the team that knows this area better than anyone. Best Realty. Whether you're looking for your first home, upgrading for more space, or relocating, Best Realty is committed to making the process smooth, honest, and successful. With deep roots in our local communities and a track record of results, Best Realty isn't just in the business of homes, they're in the business of helping families take the next step. Best Realty, local experts, real results, real people. Call today and move with confidence. Joe, one of the more interesting games of the quarterfinal round is the number 3 ranked and number 3 seeded Polo Marcos at 9-1 playing host to the 6 seed St. Anne Cardinals, who are 9-1 and ranked number 8 in state. St. Anne beat Metro East Lutheran last week 39-20. Polo beat Hiawatha 36-14. As we stated before, without Mercer Mumford, they still came away with a pretty good win. For St. Anne, they're starting to piece things together to make a run and return to the quarters. They, too, had a big loss earlier this year to South Fork as well. But they are in their second trip to the quarterfinals, their second year in a row. Obviously, a Polo win here would place them in the semifinals for the 6th consecutive year. We'll start with the Cardinals. I'll go through some of what they did last week, and then I'll have you talk about Polo. Grant Pomeranski, 12 for 14 passing, 201 yards, 4 touchdowns. 18 attempts rushing for another 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pomeranski is basically Superman last week, carrying the Cardinals on his shoulders.
Yes, he was. Those are some very impressive stats for sure.
Quentin Thompson was 18 attempts for 112 yards, also had 4 receptions for 81 yards. Matthew Langelier, 5 receptions for 99 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then Brandon Schaaf had 3 receptions for 21 yards and a touchdown. I am excited about this game. I'll be on the broadcast of this game this week. So I get a broadcast, a St. Anne quarterfinal matchup, which is ironic and interesting all the same. And they're on the road again for the second year in a row. Last year I had to make the trip to Pawnee. Now I just got to make the trip down to Polo.
Yeah, a little bit close for you this year, Kyle. So
yeah, just a bit, just a smidge.
Yeah. And not to confuse anybody, Kyle is not on the radio broadcast. I mean, he's on the TV broadcast for TSSR. So you can hear me on the radio or hear Kyle on the tube. So, but anyways, yeah, Kyle, taking a look at Polo's stats quick from last week before we break down this game. As you said, they were without Mercer Mumford, their leading rusher. Has a shoulder injury. Status still very unclear heading into the St. Anne game. I just really all I have to say on that, I just don't really know at this point. So we'll just have to see how things shake out there. But Polo last week did have some other guys step up. Of course, the quarterback, JT Stevenson, he stepped up all season long for Polo. He ended up with 28 carries for 163 yards and 2 scores. Had 3 completions, all to Jordan Reed for 57 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Reed on the ground, filling in at tailback for Mumford. Real nice game. 17 carries, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Defensive side of the ball, of course, Wyatt Placknell, he did his thing. Ethan Dewey had a nice game for Polo defensively. Had, I believe, 5 tackles for loss from that defensive end position. He was an animal in that game. So Polo, that 3-man front they were playing with Raul Placknell and Dewey. Hiawatha really struggled against that tandem there for Polo. So Kyle, this is interesting. As you said, Polo, I'm pretty sure St. Anne's well aware of how Polo's made the semifinals all 5 years in 8-man, but again, they're going to come in, they're 9-1, just like Polo is. They come in with a senior quarterback like Pomeranski who can dominate a game like he did last week. And plenty of guys around to help. It's not just Pomeranski, as you mentioned, Thompson and Langelier. And again, Polo, we don't know the stats on Mumford. But again, the quarterback, JT Stevenson, he's had a nice year on the ground, and the way Polo's doing different things offensively, giving teams different looks with Stevenson and Reed and Mumford, different ways they're trying to get those guys the outside. I like what they're doing there. Kyle, I will say this will be, whether Polo has Mumford or not, this will be the best defense, I think, that St. Anne has seen this year. They did play South Fork back in week 6. Obviously, they played MCP and Metro East last week, but I still think it's the best defense. No disrespect to anybody else, but the best defense that St. Anne has seen to this point this season. So I'll kind of start there. That front line that the Marcos have, I mentioned Damon Rao, Wyatt Placknell, Ethan Dewey, along with Esteban Salinas, had a great year at linebacker. Jordan Reed, he also had a nice game at corner against Hiawatha, had interception, several passes deflected as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how St. Anne, Kyle, attacks this Polo defense. Are they going to try to come out? Again, Pomeranski threw 14 times against Metro East. And kind of, for what I've seen of St. Anne, the stats, and what I've seen some highlights in that, they have been one of the most consistent teams, Kyle, all season as far as mixing up that run and that pass. And that does make them hard to prepare for.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the things that we've seen from their defense both last year and this year was against Pawnee. It kind of got sweltered away last year because Carson Wirt was just so good.
Right.
But they do a great job of flying to the ball. We've seen that in a lot of games this year where they definitely utilize that team speed that they have, and they can close on the ball very quickly, which is what you want. And then they do have a little bit more of a physical stature about them. They're definitely going to have to play more physical than what, like you said, that they've played all year in order to have a good shot of beating a polo team, which has, basically weeks 2 through 4, they allowed 20 to 28 points in each of those 3 contests against FCW, West Carroll, and Milledgeville. Outside of that, they dominated Hiawatha twice. They did give up 42 points to South Beloit in what was definitely a weird game.
Yep.
But when you take a look at their playoff opponents, FCW, West Carroll, Milledgeville, South Beloit, and then Hiawatha, granted they've given up combined 28 points to Hiawatha, which is what they gave up to Milledgeville in one game. That's where I'm going at, though. They're basically primed to give up 3 touchdowns in this game, maybe 4. So that's where I think Polo needs to. They're definitely gonna have to put pressure on Pomeranski.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna have to be able to at least keep a guy over top of Langelier.
Right.
And then they're gonna have to at least play a zone or a man against some of these other guys to help keep that more balanced. Otherwise, they're gonna have a hard time, I feel, stopping the Pawnee offense. But if they can get that pressure upfield and put that pressure into Pomeranski's face, that's
Right.
where they're going to find more success to try to force turnovers. And
Right.
Polo's definitely athletic enough to be able to do that. And they're physical enough up front on that defensive line to be able to put that pressure on there.
Yeah.
They just can't let that. They just can't let. They can't get blitz heavy. They have to be more solidified in what they do. Granted, you want to add pressure, but you got to find your spots to add that additional pressure.
Right. And I think, I mentioned Ethan Dewey had 5 tackles for losses last week. And I think some of that, Dewey's a great player, but some of that is the attention that the offense has to give Rao and Placknell, the other 2 guys on that front 3. Because you can't double team both of those guys. And that's about the only way you can stop any one of those guys from getting to the quarterback is to double team them. It just isn't enough guys on the field to do that.
Right.
So, so.
And let's be honest. I mean, you got Placknell at nose, and then you got Rao coming off the end coming off the edge at the end spot. Yeah, if you're not giving them enough attention, they're going to blow you up. They're going to blow you up.
Yeah, no doubt. And I really think that is the key. Can the Polo front 3 get to Pomeranski and make him throw the ball before he wants to? The other thing is, though, if they do get to him, you got to contain the pocket because he is a threat to run the ball. You got to. I don't know if you spy him somehow or what the plan will be there for Polo, but and he's gonna break some runs. I mean, he's too good not to. I mean, you're not gonna contain him the whole game, but you got to stop him from breaking the big one. And, Kyle, we talked about Mumford, his status very unclear, and everyone just thinks about his contributions on the offensive side. But he is a lockdown corner. He would be the guy that is covering Langelier if he is playing. And if he is not, then that's going to put somebody else on Langelier. And of course, you just go down the line then, your depth. you lose depth at each position there at corner if Mumford can't play. So, that would be obviously it's a big loss offensively for Polo, but if he's unable to go, it's, I want to say, almost just as big a loss defensively as well against a team like St. Anne that's going to throw the ball 14 times.
Or more.
Or more, exactly. So
No, I agree. I mean, that's where Pawnee had success last year. They were able to bottle up Chris Link, and then they were able to get the pressure into the backfield on Pomeranski to force him into errant throws.
Yep.
Likewise, Quentin Thompson is not Chris Link, but he's still a formidable back. If you can contain him and then put your second focus on the QB, you're going to find success. Easier said than done, of course. It's going to be fun. I think this game's going to have a lot of fun. Obviously, Polo enters as a 10-point favorite. Projections have it Polo 42 to St. Anne 21, which the 21 points goes right back to what I was saying against their competition with playoff teams, giving up 3 touchdowns. I can definitely see that being likely. Polo scoring 42, I don't know. Like you said, it's going to depend on the status of Mumford, and then it's going to depend, secondly, I think Jordan Reed is very capable of doing those things.
Right.
It's going to come down to, can they get the line play to open up those holes to allow Reed to get out there and make plays too.
Yeah. Kyle, one more thing on this game here before I give my prediction, but it's kind of like I talked about with a Pawnee Amboy game. You also look at St. Anne, Kyle, again, what they gave up on the ground back in week 6 to South Fork and George Bailey on the ground. We know what Polo's going to do. It's no surprise. They're going to try to run the football. They gave up, what was it, almost 500 yards on the ground week 6 to St. Anne, or against South Fork. And again, obviously South Fork, a team we're going to talk about plenty here in a minute. They're a very, very good team. But still, Kyle, that is concerning, knowing that St. Anne gave up that many yards in one game on the ground, getting ready to make the 2 hour and 45-minute trip to Polo, if you're a Cardinal fan. So they're going to have to come up with a scheme or something here to try to maintain that, or whatever you want to say, contain that Polo ground game a little bit.
Well, I do have to say, my buddy Matt Surdick just messaged me, and he asked the question of which game I was going to. I told him I was doing the broadcast for this game. Mm-hmm. Right away, he goes, "Go Birds!"
All right. No, that's
fair enough, right? I do. I think this is going to be a great playoff game. I really do.
It has potential to be a close game without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, it has potential to be the closest game of the 4. It really does. I'm still picking Polo. I just think they know how to win this time of year. I think they're going to be able to get enough pressure on Pomeranski. But I think St. Anne does keep this close. So you have this projection as a 10-point spread. I definitely see something like that, Kyle. I'm thinking maybe like a 30-20 type game, a 32-21 type game.
Get out of my head, Joe. Get out of my head.
What? We've been doing this too long together, have we, Kyle?
Is
that where you were going?
Yes, I was going to say 30-20 was going to be my projection.
I mean, and St. Anne, by the way, for folks who have not seen St. Anne, they do have a kicker, Kyle. They attempted 2 field goals in this last game. They did miss both, but let's just say it's a game where it comes down, Kyle, to
I've seen him kick.
Yeah, say at the end of the half, it's Polo's up 14-12 and St. Anne's driving, and they kick a field goal, go up 15-14 at the half. Or just as an example, like you get in the playoffs, we saw it in some games in round 1 of the 11-man playoffs where kicking was the difference. We saw it in several games.
Yeah.
EPC Farmington, Geneseo, Rochelle. I don't want to mention the Petersburg
Fairfield and Porta?
game, but it was a game-winning
No, we
field goal
mentioned it.
nonetheless.
We talked about that game earlier on the show.
So-
Yeah, we can leave that one the rest.
But my point is, Kyle.
Stay down, Mules. Stay down.
Yep. My point is, St. Anne does have a kicker, so that is an added bonus, especially when you get in these playoffs. It's where 2-point conversions can be the difference, or an extra 3 points you can put on the board could be the difference in a ball game. But I do like pulling this one. I like their defensive front a little bit better than St. Anne's here. And I'm going to say, I'll go Marcos 32-21.
Yeah, that's a good one. Another game I was thinking about was St. Joseph Ogden Benton was also another game won on a field goal last week.
Okay, I was not aware of that one. Yeah, all right.
So yeah, St. Joe.
Well, who knows?
St. Joe Ogden got the field goal to upset Benton to move into the second round to play Roxana. So
okay,
yeah, interesting. Very, very, very good points.
Kyle, I'm looking forward to seeing Polo on Saturday afternoon. So
yeah, I've never been in the press box. This will be my first time.
Yeah, so it's pretty good view. So I hope it's
at Polo, I should say.
I hope it's a good game. Obviously, pulling for Polo here a little bit, obviously, but I really think this has potential. I know. I really think this has potential to be. This could be the closest game of the weekend. It really could be an 8-man, but we'll see.
We'll see. It's not our game of the week. That's what we're going to be talking about next. I do have Polo to pick to win. I think it will be closer than what the projections state. I'm going to say 28-22.
I don't know if my heart can take it, Kyle.
It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a chest thumper. You better be ready.
I think it will be for sure.
I'll probably hear you down the hallway.
You might.
Through the earmuffs and all.
Actually, I'll be above you. You might hear me and Tommy stomping a few times.
Well, whatever. Wherever.
We'll be above you.
Either way works. Just make sure you feed me, okay?
Yeah, right.
All right, we're going to talk about our Prairie State game of the week when we return right after this. When it comes to planning for your future, you want someone you can trust. At Prairie State Investments, Mark Pfeiffer is here to help you build a plan that fits your life, your family, and your goals. Whether it's retirement, college savings, or investing wisely for tomorrow, Mark has the knowledge and local commitment to guide you every step of the way. Don't leave your future up to chance. Call Mark Pfeiffer at Prairie State Investments today at 815-668-8131 and start investing with confidence. Joey just got done talking about the Polo St. Anne game and how we think that could be one of the best games of the week. This one also has that capability as number 2 seeded South Fork and the 5th ranked South Fork Ponies enter at 10-0. They are playing host to the 7th seed but 4th ranked West Carroll Thunder, who enter at 8-2. West Carroll won 42-8 over West Central last week. South Fork won 52-6 over Galva. This is the first time these two schools have met. One of the interesting notes, South Fork finally got out of the first round of the playoffs, and now they're definitely looking for more. George Bailey eclipsed 2,000 yards on the season as he continues to lead IAFA. As Jay would say, my guy, George Bailey, had 13 attempts for 236 yards and 3 touchdowns last week, now sitting on 37 rushing touchdowns on the season as well. So definitely putting up, would you call it, one of the best single seasons in IAFA history?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of a word for it to describe it, Kyle, because, I mean, you think of Brock Salto a couple years ago for Polo, or Peace Bumba for St. Thomas More. You go back to 2021, the year Gunnar Lobdell, he, I think, 44, 45 touchdowns that year for Orangeville. I mean, Bailey is approaching. I mean, you got to put him on that list with those 3 guys I just named, and I apologize if I'm missing anybody. Carson Ward,
Yeah,
what he did last year for Pawnee.
Caden Drosty.
Drosty. I mean, Bailey's in that conversation now, though. He really is.
Yeah,
And
I
with at
mean,
least one more game to play.
Leighton Miller ran for like 3,100 yards, which in 22, which is the single season record. Drosty is, of course, is the all-time leading rusher with 6,103 yards. But even in that same season, he had 2,800, I think. He was just shy of that 3,000 yard mark.
But
Lobdell ran
Drosty,
for just under 2,400 the year Orangeville went to state.
yeah, and Drosty, you know, you figure he had the COVID season his sophomore year, and then his junior year, he missed a couple games with injury. So, I mean, he really added some more, you know, to his numbers, but that is what it is. But anyway, George Bailey, yeah, I mean, he's just having a great season. The line's been making just absolutely just huge holes for Bailey all season long. And obviously, South Fork Ponies, they're going to ride Bailey as far as he can take him here in this postseason. Kyle, they do have some other guys, though. You know, Ian Dial, 92 yards and a touchdown. Of course, Brody Van Hooser, we've talked about him all season, the way he's filling at quarterback. He had 39 yards and a touchdown. Brody Lush, 3 receptions, 54 yards and a touchdown. So, again, South Fork's a team, even though the numbers Bailey's put up, they have some different guys that have been getting the job done all season long.
Well, I've definitely been high on the Ponies. As much as people think that I'm not, I have been. Do I think they're a top 4 team? That is to be determined. I do, if you remember on the playoff show, I picked South Fork to win this game. And be that representative at state, which means that they would have to, at the time we were talking about, they would have to go through West Carroll, which that matchup is right in front of them now, and they'd have to go through Polo, which could be the matchup in front of them down the road if they can secure and take care of business against St. Anne. If everything plays out that way, I think South Fork has a great opportunity to book their trip to Monmouth.
Yeah, for sure. And Kyle, one thing I'll say about South Fork, we've touched on it throughout. I remember even going back all the way to the preview show. There's something to be said, Kyle, for a team that has all seniors when it comes to football. I mean, these guys have been through it all together here, and now they're finally seniors. The South Fork fans have been waiting for this season when they had this group of seniors. I mean, there's just something to be said for that, I don't know if I can even explain it.
It's like a dream season. I mean, let's take a look at last year. Where was George Bailey at a season ago?
Yeah, I mean,
186 yards rushing on the year.
Yeah.
Ian Dial was the leading rusher last year. And if you go back and rewatch all of our podcasts early in the season, we were talking a lot about Ian Dial. And then George Bailey just started to blow up by week 4, week 5, week 6. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And I mean, it's almost to a legendary status that we're talking about George Bailey now, which is phenomenal in many facets. It's amazing. He's like rocket shipped like the Beatles. Right? And then you throw in Brody Van Hooser, who went out for football this year as a senior. Their starting quarterback gets hurt in week 1. He gets thrown into the starting quarterback role, and now he's like the guy running the offense of one of the most prolific offenses in the state.
Exactly. It's a great story all the way around.
Yeah. I mean, how can you not be excited for this South Fork team? Exactly. And like you said, we went all the way back to the preview show back in August, and we were talking about South Fork back then, about the senior dominance that they have, and about the fact that they could be a team to watch for, that we thought that they were a team that could make a run to state, provided that they stayed healthy, and then they would have to prove themselves along the way.
Yep.
And all they've done is showing us a 10-0 record.
Yeah. And then again, Kyle, got guys that get it done on defense too for them. Jude Walker, one of my favorite linebacker names of all time, Brody Pop. I mean, how much better of a name can you have at linebacker?
Right?
He's always, around that 8-10 tackle mark every game, it seems like. Carter Elder on the line. I mean, Kyle,
Carter Elder is having a huge year for them.
Yeah, we talk about George Bailey, and rightfully so. But I tell you what, Kyle, they got some guys getting it done on defense as well.
Yeah, well, and then we didn't even mention Brody Lush, and he's sitting second all time in IDFA history on the career receiving list.
Right, exactly. So, this South Fork team, this is their year, the year they've been waiting for, the year Pony fans have been waiting for. But here's their first chance to prove themselves against a team from the north, the West Carroll Thunder. Of course, they come in this game at 8-2, only losses to Polo and Milledgeville so far. And again, the only two teams they've ever lost to in 8-man football to this point. Kyle, I called for a few weeks ago, Kyle. I've been calling for it all season. Aiden Buckholz is on a tear right now. 328 yards and 4 touchdowns on just 11 carries. I believe he had a 97-yard touchdown run, if I saw that right, against West Central. I mean, give the ball to Aiden Buckholz and see what happens, if you're the Thunder here. I mean, I've been calling for it all season. I love it. Obviously, he was dinged up at the beginning of the year. That had a lot to do with him not getting as many touches. But then, Kyle, you look at the game he had on defense this last week. 18 tackles. Is that right? Is that a typo on your part? Did you throw an extra one in there?
No. He dominated on the defensive side of the ball, man.
Aiden Buckholz.
If we gave out Player of the Week honors in the playoffs, which I only do that for the regular season, holy crap, man. He would have to be a 2-time recipient, which I never do for purpose. Right. He'd have to be a 2-time recipient after that performance.
Yeah, you couldn't pass that up.
No.
Tell you what, they got another playmaker on defense. So, Kyle, all year, Race Mix has been getting it done from that linebacker position. He had 8 tackles against West Central. He also got 24 yards and a touchdown on offense. But I've loved what Mix has brought to the table for that West Carroll defense all season. And then, of course, Roger LeBourne as well. He had 2 interceptions. To go along with 11 tackles. John Smith, 10 tackles as well. Offensively, we talk about Buckholz, obviously at 328 yards. But Dimion, he had 3 catches for 60 yards. So just a good all-around performance by the Thunder there in round 1. Kyle, I believe this is kind of like this is a big test for West Carroll, obviously. But I feel like this is a game where they, again, this wouldn't be a win against a Polo or Milledgeville team they've struggled with the first 2 years, but to go to South Fork and knock off the number 2 ranked team, this would be a game that really, to me, puts West Carroll on the map here a little bit, so to speak. Not that they're not on the map now, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say here.
Oh, I agree.
Signature win.
This is their opportunity to get a signature win, and I'll have to. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that one of my guys that follows me on Twitter with absolute religion is Jeremy Castle from Sterling. He's a big Newman Central Catholic fan, by the way. But he's been calling this all year. He wants to see Milledgeville and West Carroll in the state championship. And he's gone to the spot to where he's saying it's time to get thunderstruck.
All right.
So the fact that West Carroll is in this situation is not surprising at all based off of what we saw they did last year. And then to watch them start to close that gap this year.
Right.
And here's a big thing too. I mean, not all of these guys, but some of these guys return next year yet.
Oh, yeah.
With a good freshman class as well. that
Mhm.
is going to be sophomores with a good senior class. I mean, the sky is looking up for the Thunder, and if they can take care of business this week and punch that ticket into the semifinals, I tell you what, every roof is going to be thrown off of houses between Mount Carroll Thompson and Savannah.
Yeah. Yeah, Kyle, I just love the storyline here. You got the top team from the South this year, South Fork, against an 8-2 West Carroll team who, again, lost Pole, lost in Milledgeville, but it's still that team from the North, Kyle, where, these teams from the South know you're going to have to beat the good teams from the North if you want to get to where you want to get to. And so, as I mentioned, it's a statement game for West Carroll here. It's just as big of a statement game for South Fork, plus what I talked about with all their seniors. This is their year. I love the storyline here, Kyle, for this game. I just absolutely love it. I mean, small school football at its finest right here as far as a storyline.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it. God, I've said it so many times, so I'm kind of disappointed. I really wanted to be down there for this game. I really did.
Yeah.
But I couldn't pass up the opportunity to be on a broadcast for the Polo St. Anne game either.
Right.
Because I really enjoyed it last year, and I wanted to have that opportunity to do it again this year. But man, would I love to be at this game 100%.
Yeah.
But I will be tuned into this game. There's no doubt about that, because I'll be able to get tuned into this game pretty much right at the time Polo St. Anne game's getting wrapped up. So I will definitely have eyes on this game. And we haven't even talked about that yet. Can you imagine? One, we're covering every game right now in full depth and detail.
Yep.
And every game has a 2-hour time slot. 2, 12, 4, and 6.
It was like it was an NCAA tournament type of time slotting by the 8-man crew, Kyle. I mean, you can't beat it. Milledgeville, South Beloit at noon. Polo St. Anne at 2. West Carroll, South Fork at 4. And then the nightcap, the 2-time defending state champs. You finish off the day with the 2-time defending state champs going on the road to 9-1 Pawnee in a rematch from last year's semifinal. That's a 6:00 kickoff from Pawnee. I don't think this was planned, Kyle, to my knowledge. But man, it
was not planned,
awesome.
but boy, did it work out in our favor.
I think they just should make this a way to do the quarters every year for 8-man. Give fans a chance to watch basically every game in its entirety for the most part.
And and that's what's awesome. Like, dude, we talk about November being the best 4 to 5 weeks of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I always say 5 weeks because we still got the 11-man state championships in Normal the week after this one. And with that, to me, this is the best thing, is the fact that you can get these games tiered out to where, you can go from one game to the next, to the next, to the next.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
I mean, the next best thing would be to be sitting down in Kincaid for a 4:00 kick and then drive 10 minutes down the road to Pawnee for that game.
Right, exactly.
And I hope that a lot of those people do just that down in that area because of the impact and just the overall environment that playoff football brings to both those towns and communities.
For sure.
Win or lose, it's going to be a fun day.
Yeah.
This one's going to be tough. We've watched West Carroll be able to contain Schofield. But Orangeville doesn't have a line like what South Fork does.
Right.
Orangeville doesn't have a quarterback like what South Fork does, which made stopping Hayden Schofield a little bit easier. for South Fork, West Carroll brings a tenacious defense. You said it. Race Mix, Aiden Buckles running that defense at that linebacker position. And then you throw in like Cohen Good on the defensive line at defensive end. And then you have your DBs and LeBourne and Johnner Smith back there as well. Well, Johnner Smith, actually, he plays on the defensive line too now, I think. If I remember correctly. I can't remember. It's been a minute since I watched West Carroll play live. Either way, but you still have Badimlia at defensive back too. There's just one of the things that stood out to me with West Carroll was in that polo game. And of course, that was the first game that Mumford played in that year, or this year, is when they started to run away from Race Mix. He recognized that and immediately started to yell out to Coach S, I need to be on the other side of the ball. I need to be where he's going. Like, he wanted that contact. He wanted to be the guy that was there making that play. And then on top of that, you throw Coach S calls him Bucky, Aiden Buckles in there. And this just adds more to what that defense can do. Can this line hold up against South Fork's line? South Fork line is huge. We talked about how big their line was last year. They're just as big this year.
Yeah. Well, it's the same guys. Yeah.
I know. I mean, they have to be able to fire off the ball.
Right.
Because you're going to have to win that line battle to find success. And they're going to be outsized by South Fork. No doubt about it.
Right.
So I'm very intrigued by this game. Obviously, I couldn't even get West Carroll's a slight favorite. And by slight favorite, I mean that they're less than a point favorite in this game.
Wow.
This is the epitome of a toss-up game.
Yeah, this definitely is a potential classic right here for sure.
The projections have West Carroll winning by 7.
Okay.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, I'm going to stick with what I went on my Spotlight podcast, Kyle, earlier in the week. And again, this is a tough one. It really is. No disrespect to West Carroll. I'm going to say South Fork by 2 scores here. And I know that seems crazy. Just, I like the ground game. Again, South Fork, it just kind of seems like their year to make a splash here. Long trip here for the Thunder, obviously. Yeah, I'm picking South Fork by 2 scores. Again, George Bailey in the run game. But again, they also got some other guys, Dial and Lush and guys like that. But I'm going to say South Fork. We're going to go 38-24 South Fork.
It's a solid pick. I do like the fact that if George Bailey starts to get bottled up, they always have Ian Dial that they can come back to. We've also seen Brody Lush get into the rushing game from a wide receiver position, which means that Coach Hanlon has the ability to be multifaceted in what he does. The projections, when I bring up the bracket here in a moment, the projections are going to say West Carroll wins this game. I am, too, going to stick with my pick that I picked on our playoff show. I have South Fork making the trip to Monmouth. I am picking South Fork in this game. Do I want to see West Carroll win? Sure, absolutely. Why wouldn't I want to see an area team win?
Right.
But at the same time, I've also gotten to know Coach Hanlon over the last 2 seasons as well. And Coach Kirkendall and have been able to talk to Andrew Elder, Carter's dad, a couple different times as well. So obviously I'm starting to make some inroads down in Kincaid.
Yeah.
Even got offered a pork chop sandwich too. Unfortunately, I'm not making that trip to Kincaid right now. So I need South Fork to make it to the state championship game so I can get that pork chop sandwich in Monmouth.
There you go. There you go.
I'm not going to turn down food. I'm a fat kid.
No, same.
No,
This again, Kyle. This should be a fun game. I really think it's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. I think it's going to be a great game. I don't know if it's going to be a 2-score game.
Right. South Fork.
I like the matchup of Bucky and Bailey going up against each other.
Oh gosh, what a matchup for sure. And South Fork, if they win, and the other top seed of this part bracket, Polo, beats St. Anne, South Fork would get the third home game in the playoffs, and they would host Polo in the semis.
Yeah, so that's even bigger.
They could host
every round.
3 playoff games here. They're the only team left that has a chance to host 3 playoff games. That would be huge, having that semifinal in Kincaid. Man, what an atmosphere that would be if that does happen.
Man, imagine that too. Was it really worth the 1 seed?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Now if South Fork wins and St. Anne wins, and South Fork have to go to St. Anne, a place they'd already won by 20 this season. So
yeah, they're not afraid of that.
Not exactly for sure. The way they ran the ball against the Cardinals. So boy, a lot on the line here. Obviously, gonna be fun. 2 of the top backs in all 8-man football, Bailey and Buckholz. Man, it's gonna be fun, Kyle. I'm picking South Fork.
Yep, I have South Fork winning too. I'll be. Don't get me wrong. This is an NUIC show, so I'm not going to be upset if West Carroll wins.
Right.
I would love to see West Carroll win. I'm just gonna go with what my initial projections were, and I'm gonna state that South Fork gets there. I don't think it's gonna be a 2-touchdown differential.
Kyle, just kind of looking in general here, though. You got South Fork taking on West Carroll. You got St. Anne taking on Polo, and you got Pawnee taking on Amboy. I mean, here is a chance, Kyle, for these teams from the South to make a statement. Let's be honest. Let's call it what it is.
Call a spade a spade. I do that all the time.
That's right. You want us to stop talking about the North and the NUIC? Well, here's your opportunity.
Yep. Put up or shut up time.
It's just the way it is. So it's going to be a fun weekend. And again, I'm excited, hoping to catch all not maybe every second, every game, but going to be able to catch, at least some of all the games. So with the way the time slots work out.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to be
that.
Able to do that.
Man, I can't wait for next week when we talk about these 4 games and then break down the 2 semis. No matter how it shakes out, it'll be 2 very, very good semifinal games that we'll have to break down.
So there's a look at the projected bracket. So obviously you see the quarterfinal or the first round wins into the quarterfinal with the scores, and then the projections of what the final 4 would look like if projections held true. Which, if that were the case, those are the top 4 ranked teams in the state as they entered the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And that would be all 4 NUIC teams.
It would be. So like you said, Pawnee, South Fork, St. Anne, they all have an opportunity here to turn up the noise a little bit and make themselves even more known than what they already are. And as we both stated, we do have South Fork projected to win. Or picked to win, I should say, not projected, because West Carroll's projected to win. We have South Fork picked to win. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. I say it every year. When we get to the quarterfinal round, This is usually when the 8-man games get more intriguing and more interesting, as they should. But it's one of those things where, yes, we did see a lot more parity throughout the course of the season this year, which is great for the 8-man game. At the same time, it still goes back to, your top 8 teams have proven to be the top 8 teams. I mean, the final 8 teams remaining were the final 8, the top 8 teams ranked in state when we entered the playoffs. So not surprised at all by any of what has happened to this point. But despite the seeds on these brackets here, if these 4 teams were to be the 4 teams that move into the semifinals, it's basically been an all chalk playoff format.
Right, for sure.
So it'll be interesting. I'm definitely excited to see how all of these games play out. Obviously, I wish every one of these teams the best of luck, and I hope that they can all make great games of what these quarterfinals are and what they should be. But clearly, there's a couple teams in here, Amboy, Milledgeville, that are heavily favored compared to the Polo and West Carroll matchups with South Fork and St. Anne, respectively. So, can Pawnee put a surprise on the Amboy? That's to be determined. South Beloit definitely, in my opinion, has the hardest up road.
Correct.
So we'll see. Should be a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys...
I can't wait, Kyle.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
I hope everybody gets out to these games to give support. Obviously, I've been seeing a lot of commentary among social media, both on my page and on the WIVC page. The WIVC page was actually more intriguing. They definitely have some teams down there in that southwestern part of the state where they feel that there's a couple teams that should be looking to go 8-man that just haven't pulled the trigger yet. And
yeah,
I commented on that, the 8-man game is a great way for some of these teams that are struggling with numbers and struggling to compete to actually get back into the game, play with pride, start to turn their program around. And with that, we've seen a lot of these teams here were in the same boat. A couple of them made the playoffs the year before they transitioned into 8-man, Milledgeville and Polo.
Right.
Amboy, actually West Carroll. Yeah, West Carroll was not a playoff team before they came in. Amboy had been a big football town and fell on hard times, and then they got even tougher with their transition to the NUIC. And you can go down the line on every one of these teams here, and the story's the same. They all had hard times that they fell on. Low numbers were a problem. Being able to compete was a problem. And continued drops in enrollment were also contributing factors. But we've also seen a lot of these teams start to build their numbers back up, too, because of 8-man football. Likewise, there's still a lot of haters out there that just don't like 8-man football because it's not traditional football, and I say they're a bunch of blowholes anyway. But don't get me wrong, I was definitely a guy that was against 8-man football at the very start of it back in 2018, 2019. I have since come to respect and love the game of 8-man football because, 1, it is still football. 2, it creates an exhilarating and exciting environment for the fans. And 3, if you're a good defensive team, you're still not going to allow a lot of points. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll admit, Kyle, I was on board from the beginning. So, but I was living in that where, broadcasting for Polo, I seen the struggles, and it wasn't so much the losses, Kyle. It's the fact that, I always go back to the game. It was in 2000, I believe it was 17. 17, I believe it was. It was either 16 or 17. Polo's playing at Stockton, Kyle. Their 2 starting quarterbacks go down in the game. All right. This is an 11-man game, obviously. You know, they got a kid that was playing guard. They had to move to quarterback. Polo was throwing freshmen out there in the kickoff and kickoff return team against a very good Stockton team. Like, that's when I said something has to be done. You know, it's not about just competing. It's about keeping everybody safe. You shouldn't be. Freshmen don't belong on varsity in 11-man football unless you're an absolute stud. You know, so that was one of the things. You know, and again, you could just, like, the writing was on the wall for, you know, again, I live the pole example, but for a lot of these other teams too. And you see a lot of these small schools now, Kyle, where you'll have a class of, say, only 10 boys coming through. Okay, so only 5 or 6 of those boys play football, you know? So, and it's hard to overcome that in small school football. You know, a big school, bigger school, a 2 or 3 school might be able to overcome that, but a 1A school makes it tough, you know? So, you know, I've been on board with this thing since the beginning. And, you know, it's been great to me so far, for sure. And I hope other people have the same experiences and that is brought for me and my family and for my town. So it's definitely a great thing for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely it's been exciting. I've enjoyed I've enjoyed covering the games. I've enjoyed interacting with a bunch of the coaches. And I've enjoyed going downstate every single year because
Yeah, for sure.
it's an exciting time when you can make it to Monmouth, and obviously not everybody gets that opportunity. But I do challenge anybody to, especially if you're an 8-man school team.
Yeah.
It's no different than anybody that would just randomly show up to the 11-man state championships. Make the trip to Monmouth. Hell, take your entire team to Monmouth. Do it as a field trip or something. But take in the environment of what it is to be at Monmouth so you can start putting that belief into your kids.
Exactly.
And it's a lot of it is. It's a lot of fun. And you know, that's one of the things that I was looking at earlier this week too. Like, people are talking about, you know, why do people even follow 8-man football? It's like, okay. And of course they had a picture of last year's state championship game. And I'm like, you realize that state champ, or that game right there in that picture, had over 3,000 people in attendance?
Right.
There's 11-man games that don't even get that in the playoffs.
Right.
Like, that is special.
Yes, it is.
And then if you go back and look at each year that Dwayne Hewlett and TSSR have done the state championship games, every year the viewership grows.
Mm-hmm.
There was over 14,000 views to the Milledgeville Amboy game last year. The year before, the Amboy Ridgewood game had over 9,000 views.
Yep.
So every year it continues to rise. And people are like, well, this needs to be televised and this needs to be sanctioned by IHSA. You know what? Forget IHSA. They would screw this up anyway. Because you have to follow their damn rules. And don't get me wrong, right. I'm not against IHSA per se, but I think what John Lawler and the IDFA committee is doing is awesome.
Yeah. Because what they've built here is special. It really is
special. And they've done great things. And yes, everybody wants to see this be put into Hancock Stadium and be it on state championship weekend in the day after Thanksgiving and all that jazz. And yeah, there are some things that would be nice to have that happen, and have a state trophy that matches the other state trophies from all the other sports. I get that. I really do. But does Polo or Amboy have a problem showcasing their IDFA state championship trophy in their school hallways?
Nope, sure don't.
Do the signs on the roadway when you enter town still say state champions?
Yep.
What's the deal? I think
Yep.
what Dwayne and TSSR do as far as broadcasting the game is top notch for what they have to work with the limited resources that they have to work with at
Yep.
Monmouth. And they do a hell of a job covering the game.
Yep.
I mean, do you really want to listen to a Lee Hall or a Jack McInerney talk about 8-man football as if they've been watching it the whole year and they have no flipping clue what the hell's going on? No.
No.
You want to watch real people that watch 8-man football cover 8-man football. That's more entertaining.
That's good stuff right there, Kyle. That was good.
I mean, let's be real.
Yep. I know. I agree.
I don't need to listen to a Matt Rodewald who gives out votes to teams just because he likes their coaches in state ranking polls to be the guy announcing a game, and he has never seen an 8-man football game in his life.
Yeah. And Kyle, the other thing about Monmouth, with them still playing that state championship game for the 8-man on Friday night, it's usually the only game in the state in Illinois that night. Once in a while, there'll be like a 7-8 semifinal game on that night, but for the most part, it's the only high school game in the state on that night.
We only had that the one time, and it was Rochester.
Yeah. Why?
Because John Gavin was talking about it, remember?
Yeah. Why throw the 8-man in somehow with the 1 through 4A on that day after Thanksgiving? Like, I think they wanted their own identity. That even makes it more special. And the fact of being at Monmouth, it's more that high school game feel. You're not in a 10,000 seat or a 20 or 40,000 seat stadium. You got that feel where everyone's still on top of the field for the most part.
I just wish Monmouth would put more stands on the visitor side.
I agree.
That's the only complaint I ever hear. Not enough seating on the visitor side.
It is. And the parking is a little limited, but again,
the parking sucks. Let's be honest.
I see, Kyle. So I always get there early enough since I'm broadcasting. I get a pretty good spot.
Same here. But there was one time I had to park outside that end zone area and right on the street, which wasn't too bad. But yeah, I've been there early enough now to where I park in that campus dorm parking lot and get the close spot next to the press box.
That's right. That's right. So anyways, Kyle, I'm looking forward to this weekend. Looking forward to seeing you at Polo. And again, I know West Carroll South Fork's the game of the week, but that Polo St. Anne game, that has potential to be pretty darn good in its own right. So
going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. So obviously
should be a fun weekend. I can't wait.
Like you said earlier, you can listen to Polo St. Anne on WLT and listen to Joe or tune in to TSSR Game Time Live and you got me.
Yeah. We're not in competition, folks.
No, it's not competition.
If you choose to listen to Kyle and watch the game, I understand.
I'm not worried about competition either. I just have fun calling the game. It's just
that's right.
That's just fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my thing, no matter whether Kyle Kampmier is in the same press box as me or not, folks.
Wouldn't you know? Wouldn't you know?
No, I'm looking forward to it, Kyle. Hopefully you are too. I know you're honored to be asked to be on a broadcast this week, and just happened you got to be at Polo. So again, get to see you there, and hopefully that Polo St. Anne game's a good one. And and I think we're having plenty of good games to talk about next week, and obviously we'll be excited to break down those semifinal games. So
no doubt about it.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm same man. I'll come up, and when I get there, I'll see you. I'll be there plenty early so I can have all my notes prepared and help Wyatt with whatever setup he may need, and be able to just sit back and take a different view of a game for a change.
You're usually on the sideline.
Yeah.
So now you get to be up top.
Exactly. Yeah. The only time I ever go up top is at state.
Yep. Here's the other thing, Kyle. I think something we didn't mention here before we close this out. I think there's a chance of rain on Saturday.
Hey, if there is, that's even
So
better. I'll
that
be drunk.
that could have will that affect some of these games? Only time will tell. But you know, never know. You'll what field, what ball, what could happen. So it definitely could change things.
Well, when you throw the ball, 2 things bad can happen. That's what the great
That's
John
right.
O'Boyle always said.
That is for sure. For sure.
3 things can happen, and 2 of them are bad. So, yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun. Joe, thanks as always, for coming on, obviously, and covering our portion of the 8-man side for our
I
NUIC
love it.
podcast. Yes, it's always a
Yep.
lot of fun. Like I said, I'm glad that you want to join again next year as well, because
Yep.
we just continue to grow, and this is great. And of course, getting more talking points around 8-man football with knowledgeable people helps out a ton, because it draws more interest. And I know you guys hear it. I hear the same thing. Everybody thanks us for giving 8-man a lot of attention, as they deserve to get. So
Yep.
it's always my pleasure to cover 8-man football, whether people agree or disagree with me. I don't care. That's I put information and content out there for the viewers, and it's more for consumption. And I do it because when I was a player back in the day, that's the stuff I fed off of. I
Yep.
loved it when people picked against us. I absolutely loved it. So if I'm picking against you and you hate it, we'll find a reason to love it instead.
That's right.
But no, get out to the games. A lot of great ones on deck here. If you can't make them, every one of them is on YouTube at TSSR Game Time Live. I already have the link set up on our social media page on Facebook. I will send that back out again as well for anybody that has missed it, because I know they have. But every game available through TSSR Game Time Live on YouTube, and it's going to be a ton of fun. And actually, all 4 of these games are covered on local radio by our stations up here as well. So even better is that fact that we're getting radio broadcasts across all 4 of these games. So plenty of ways to listen in, but get out to the games, root for your teams. As always, root for the NUIC.